I'm waiting until the thing says it, and the thing says it. We are live. It is Trade Deadline Thursday, folks. I know this is the show you guys have been waiting on all year long, and we are here. What's happening, everybody? I'm Dan Besbris. You can see that from the name and the Twitter handle. I get my own because I'm here the full 4 hours, and I am so thrilled to be joined for 4 hours of Trade Deadline live coverage. Segment 1, my good buddies, Lyle Swithenbank, Ira Silver. Ira, what's up, my man?
Hey, Dan. How you doing this morning?
I am rounding into shape. There's a lot of stuff that goes on to try to get these things settled and then also getting a kid off to preschool. Lyle, what's going on, man? It's the middle of the night for you.
It is. It is officially 1:03 a.m. and couldn't think of anywhere better to be. Yeah,
that's what
very
I'm
excited.
talking about. So, just a quick note for everybody here. I'm going to be doing my best to monitor the wire, my phone, the actual show itself. So there may be things that sneak past me or under the radar, but that's why we've got great guests. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat room as well. Not taking questions from it, but if anybody finds something that maybe we miss in the heat of battle here, you guys can let us know. I can see actually there's already a note in the chat room about whether or not the bed is made in the background, and the answer is no, it's not. It's not. One of these days I'll get an office. This is a hoop ball presentation. You guys can see that on your screen. I'm going to do my best here to point at things. There's hoop ball above my head. Follow at Hoopball Fantasy on Twitter if you aren't doing it already. Over there, you can see the Trade Deadline live show. What do you do here? You probably point with this hand, huh? That's smart. Thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our YouTube channel because all of our podcasts actually get ported over to this YouTube channel. Everything that we put out, every team show, every fantasy show, every betting show, it all ends up on our YouTube channel in one really easy place to find it. So definitely subscribe to that and drop the thumbs up on it right below the YouTube window. That'll help other people find this thing over the course of this amazing trade deadline day. Lyle, Ira, I want to make sure people can find you guys as well. Where are you guys on Twitter?
I'm at Ira Silver Magic. You know me, I'm on the betting podcast with Hoopball and always updating picks throughout the day as well as live bets. And, if I find out we got to get off the game, I'll definitely tweet that out as well.
Lyle, where are you at?
So I was one of the premium contribers, and you can find me at Lyle Swithenbank, and I also host the Facebook Facebook page and show Saturday Night Lyle on Saturday nights, which it's been quite fun, and I've been enjoying that.
Saturday Night Lyle. I love it. I really do. So let's just launch into things because we've already had stuff from last night. We've got things happening this morning. I'm going to be trying to keep a moving notepad document of everything that's gone down. I know we got some more pieces of this Miami-Memphis stuff happening this morning, but let's go all the way back to the front end. And obviously, if anything huge breaks, we'll jump in and we'll do that on the fly here. The Rob Covington trade. That was the first one. Covington, Capella, 12-man, biggest trade since 2000. We covered it a little bit on Fantasy NBA Today yesterday with my buddy Brandon Marcus. He'll be on, by the way, during the 11:30 and 12 o'clock segments of this trade deadline live show. What do you guys make of that? Lyle, I'll come over to you first because I know you're going to sleep first. Covington, Capella, all that seems pretty set in stone. Are you excited about any of the fringe guys, or is that one that was just a lot of names and a lot of confusion, but not a ton of fantasy change?
Yeah, well, it seemed to be a lot of moving parts. What they say, it was 12 different players or something across 4 teams. There just seemed to be a lot going on. I think the 2 guys that you mentioned were probably the two key guys, being Capella and Rob Covington. I honestly don't think there was too much more beyond that really got me excited in terms of any pickups or anything. A lot of those guys are just sitting on the waiver wire in all of my leagues, and there's not anyone that I was really excited about. A few people that I've seen throughout the day have been jumping on Jordan Bell and guys like that. But again, if Houston are going to play, PJ Tucker at the center, they're just not even going to bother about anything like that. He's going to be a fringe guy when he plays against Anthony Davis, and I think that's about all. Otherwise, it is purely those two guys, and the rest is just filler, and it makes it look a bit fancier than the than the main core pieces with 12 players moving everywhere.
Ira, what are you thinking about on this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really get the trade for Houston. I know a lot of people on my Twitter handle have been ranting and raving about it. I just don't see it happening. I mean, you're giving up a guy, Clint Capella, who I think is going to fit very nicely with the Atlanta Hawks. I think they're doing a great job over there in trying to accumulate some younger pieces to center Trae Young around. You know, Covington, to me, he's just a guy that's going to play a little defense. I think really what it comes down to for Houston there was they were trying to play a little defense in terms of not allowing the Lakers to get Robert Covington. And at the end of the day, I don't see too much value in this trade for the Rockets. And I think that Atlanta really did a great job here. And I really like them moving forward.
You know, I realize here partway into the show, and I know he's sort of the floating head orb of our proceedings, but the great Aaron Brewski is hiding out in silence, monitoring the wire. Aaron, what's up, man? I see you swinging that microphone in front of your face because I know I'm gonna make you talk here for a second. Good morning, big dog.
I'm just scared after your intimidating email that my sound's not set up correctly.
Hey, listen, man. You know I take this show seriously.
What's up, guys?
Yeah.
What's up, Ira, my sponsor?
Hey, what's going on? I'm good. How are you?
Hey, where have you been all these days? I keep betting on the Kings.
I'm here in support for you on Twitter. Anytime you have a bet, I'm going to sweat it with you and make sure you're not going too crazy.
Oh, don't do that because that'll drive you crazy. But things are good, Dan. It's this day is always it's a classic day every single year. So just getting ready, writing this article up where we're profiling all of these moves, figuring out who's a good pickup, who's not, all that good stuff. And I'm just about to publish it here, so probably about 30 minutes from now, and,
nice.
And things are heating up, of course. So what do you want to know, Dano?
Nothing. I just wanted to say hi. Just wanted to say hi.
Well, hello.
We'll give you the Uncle Leo treatment here. Hello, Aaron. We're going to come back to Brew. He's at Aaron Brewski on Twitter. You guys probably know that already. We'll come back to Brew as things are breaking. He's over there working on the articles, monitoring the wire for us as well, and just making sure that Hoopball is continuing to be held together here throughout this wild trade deadline morning. Some of the stuff from last night, we can kind of segue into that a tiny bit here. We're still getting bits and pieces of this Memphis, Miami, Oklahoma City thing that's shaking out. So I want to postpone talking about that as long as humanly possible until all of the pieces fall into place. Man, I know, Brew, I told you I was just going to let you off the hook, but the Kings made a move. So I'm going to make you do one more thing here before I let you disappear for a few minutes. Dwayne Dedmon to the Hawks for Jabari Parker, Alex Len, and Dedmon and second rounders to the Hawks. So this was presumably the Kings just getting off of a guy that they didn't want anymore. Yeah?
Yeah, they wanted him out of there as fast as possible. He wanted to get out of there as fast as possible. And, this deal, I don't understand why the Hawks are doing it. I get wanting to get out from underneath the Jabari Parker's contract, but it's not that big. So you're sending out a couple players and, you're bringing in Dwayne Dedmon. I don't know. Like, Jabari Parker, to me, probably could have done some things for them off the bench in a 20 to 24-minute role that, could have been better than what they have right now. But, they send him out. And the Kings, really, this comes down to, from a fantasy perspective, are they going to try to wedge Jabari Parker in? They actually wanted to pursue him a while back. And, this is when Jabari Parker was clearly not somebody that they should have been pursuing, especially with the numbers that were getting thrown around at the time. You kind of worry, are they going to try to make him a 25-minute guy? What are they going to do with Nemanja Bjelica? I think that's the biggest question sort of posing Sacramento right now. They probably think they can get more for him than they really can. And if they find that that's the case, if they go out there looking, in particular, like with the Lakers, when Kyle Kuzma was being discussed, that's who they dangled, was Nemanja Bjelica. The Lakers came back and asked for Bogdan Bogdanovic, which is why things stalled out there.
Aaron, I'm jumping in because there's a little bit of buzzing going on. So I'll let you hit the wire, and I don't know if it's an internet thing or a microphone thing, but give me one quick mic check here to see if we can get rid of that bad boy.
1 2 1 2.
Yeah, you're buzzing pretty good. The big dog, the microphone is telling you it's wire time. I'm letting you.
If I fix this, I'll come back.
All right, I'll let you off the hook. You got an article to patrol anyway. We got all sorts of things to cover. I'm gonna come back to my guys Lyle and Ira here. What about this Warriors-Sixers trade from last night? I mean, so far we haven't had any giant names changing hands, and I don't know that we really will. But we may have some stuff that creeps up on the fantasy side, and that's what we're always looking for. Lyle, I'll come to you as well for first again on this one. I mean, these two guys going from the Warriors to the Sixers, they basically lose their jobs, right?
Well, 100%. I mean, I've got Alec Burks on one of my leagues, and I hold on to him all year, and he's been quite up and down, I suppose, but probably one of the main guys. I think he now just gets buried in the depth chart at Philly. Both of them, I guess. It showed when Embiid was out that Ben Simmons thrived, and I think with the shooters around him, he plays better, and maybe those guys figure into that. But otherwise, I guess they just sit watching, which is not a bad spot to be. The Philly team's not bad, but I think they have lost significant, if not all, of their roles.
Ira, same question. Any difference on opinion here?
I'm in the same exact position as Lyle here. Not too excited about the trade. Doesn't really do anything for me from a betting perspective, and it just looks like they're going to sit on the bench and watch my favorite player in the league, Tobias Harris, miss a lot more jump shots.
Not a fan, eh?
You know it. If anybody who's a big fan of the betting podcast here on Hoopball knows how much my love for Tobias runs deep.
Let's shout out that show for just a second here. If you guys are into sports betting in any way, you can check out Today in Sports Betting. It's a fantastic podcast. Ira, Neil, Josh, and Devin hosting that Monday through Friday. Episode is out right now. We are continuing to get information on everything going on between the Heat, the Grizzlies, and the Thunder. This morning, we have confirmation of sort of what would effectively be kind of a second piece of this. We still don't even really have the full first piece in place, but it sounds like right now, what we're sitting on as of 3 minutes ago when Woj sent out another tweet is that Justice Winslow, Dion Waiters, and James Johnson are headed to the Memphis Grizzlies for Solomon Hill and Jay Crowder. And Andre Iguodala, obviously. He's the initial one. So Iguodala, Solomon Hill, Jay Crowder, 3 small forwards on their way to Miami. Basically 3 small forwards effectively, or, like a big one, a medium one, and a large one coming back from the Miami Heat. So let's take this guy by guy. The prize for Memphis here is Justice Winslow, I have to assume, right? And I mean, whether or not he's healthy or not is sort of a question we'll sort out a little bit later on. That's the guy that they were hoping to get out of this whole ordeal with Andre Iguodala. They ended up getting probably more than people expected. Ira, from a betting standpoint, I'll come to you first on this. We'll loop around back through the fantasy stuff. Ira, from a betting standpoint, what do you do when a trade like this shakes up a team?
Yeah, it's so difficult. You really got to sit back probably and watch a game or two before you really jump on either side and formulate an opinion. But from a model standpoint as well, I mean, it's hard to tell what the impact of these players are really going to be. Iggy going from Memphis to Miami is going to be huge for them on the defensive side of the ball. And Justice Winslow is going to really help Memphis as well. So at the end of the day, you're really going to have to take into consideration and sit back and watch and stay tight for maybe a game or two, see how the chemistry goes, look at the rotations, and then kind of factor those numbers into your model if you have one, and then kind of start playing those sides. You don't want to jump in too quick, too fast, unless you have an opinion, just like in the NFL. A lot of money is made in NFL week 1, 2, and 3 for, professional handicappers because there's not a lot of data out there. So maybe it could be a time to really take advantage of that and lean in one way or the other. I'll probably sit back one game, take a look, and see what happens with the rotations.
Lyle, on the fantasy side, does Justice Winslow, let's assume he actually gets healthy at some point, does he have a decent role with Memphis this season?
It just depends what we've if the news has actually been truthful. I think has been the rumblings. Was Miami just holding him out, or was his back injury pretty as bad as they say? I don't know whether or not he fits in this year in terms of a big role. I think they've got the ball rolling at the moment at the Grizzlies, and with Dylan Brooks playing good basketball, and similar positions, he might slot in next to him. But again, then there's JJJ sitting there as well. With Jay Crowder moving, well, yeah, there's a few minutes there, but I just don't know if he's got any value. Well, I suppose it's all team build, isn't it? I don't think there's much value in him this year. I think it's a wait and see approach. He might come out and prove me completely wrong, but I don't think there's a huge amount. And I'm not running out to go and get him.
Brew, I think you said you may have sorted out what was a Bluetooth interference here. We officially have our first Woj action of the morning. I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't come to the big dog on this one. Thoughts on, because there were a couple guys in this trade that were hovering on the border of fantasy value before. Jay Crowder was one who had sort of touched the edges of 12-teamers for a little bit. Andre Iguodala hasn't played at all this year, so we don't really know what's to come on that front. Justice Winslow has always been sort of a points league darling. Are you making any adds or drops based on this data?
No, I don't think so. I think in Miami, things are pretty log jammed, so almost like normal in previous years. And, over in Memphis, I don't think Justice Winslow really can be, a fantasy guy. His percentages have always been an issue. When we've seen him have fantasy value in Miami, it's been when he's been fully unleashed in sort of a 30-minute role. And they've really turned to him out of necessity for that. So I like the fit. I actually like this deal a lot for both teams. But, for him to displace John Morant on the ball, that doesn't seem likely. Jaren Jackson is still going to get his touches. He's still going to feed the wildebeest all his touches. And so basically, where does Winslow fit in? So I don't think that there's really a good answer for that. Crowder's actually been surprisingly good for stretches, really inconsistent as usual, but there's been a couple, 3-week, 4-week stretches where he's had some mid-round value. So he's not going to touch that in Miami, obviously. So there is one more shoe to drop here, though. And that's with Danilo Gallinari. If he ends up becoming a part of this deal, then everything else, changes. But I don't see any real ads out of this at this time.
Yeah, Woj with a follow-up tweet saying that the talks on Gallo have stalled for the moment, although he notes that there is still time to try to get something done on that front. So no Gallo component yet on this trade. I think if you're looking at, I guess, maybe a little bit deeper, Miami is such a cluster mess. We always talk about them needing addition by subtraction, and this is neither. This is 3 out, 3 in. And you just know that Spo's going to be kind of goofing people around. Lyle, do you think there's any way that someone like Iguodala could play enough to have value? It seems like his body hasn't really been able to handle it lately.
Yeah, well, he's coming off, nearly a year off. So you'd think if he's going to be fresh, it would be now. I guess, he's always been good for those defensive stats. I suppose that's what you'd be looking at. But it'll be spot minutes, especially if they go and get Gallinari as well. I guess, they're all vying for those same sort of minutes. He'll be there as a defender, and I suppose they'll throw bodies at him. But again, I don't see him having this huge at least 12-team value in the immediate future. Not sure.
Ira, what about from a reality standpoint? Does this make either team significantly better or worse?
I don't think so. I think that the only piece to me would be that's intriguing at all is Iggy, right? If Iggy can play and he's not, a shell of what he was, and he can kind of get back into game shape. He's taken a lot of time off. If he can really get back to even 50% of what he was, it'll be really big for the Heat, especially from the defensive side of the ball. It'll really give them another person and another player who can really stop a threat on the other side of the basketball. So between him and Jimmy Butler, I think that could be a really nice fit, but only time will tell. We'll see how much his body can handle. I know my body can't handle it, but he's a professional athlete, so we'll see what happens there.
You're a young buck, Ira. Don't kid yourself. What about the race for the 8th seed in the Western Conference? Does Memphis, let's say Justice Winslow, we need to play a little bit of a hypothetical game here, which is he actually badly hurt, or is he actually, sort of semi-hurt but being held out for long stretches because of the possibility of a trade? Ira, I'm sticking with you on this one. If Winslow plays, doesn't this actually potentially make Memphis better? Is he better than Jay Crowder, or is he worse? I actually don't know that I fully know between those two guys. They're Crowder's so inconsistent and Winslow's still young.
Yeah, well, so Jay Crowder's in the same boat for me as Tobias Harris. He's lost me a lot of money over the years, that guy. I mean, just chances of backdoor covers for the last probably 5 years. He can't hit a 3 with 12 seconds left wide open to get me that cover. So he's really tilted me a lot. Having said that, it'll be interesting to see if Justice actually plays, and if he does play, will he really improve his game? Jay Crowder to me is just kind of a filler. He did have a nice little role with Memphis. I actually think that Memphis has a very solid team. I'm very high on them this year. And I think that if everyone can stay healthy, I really think that they can make a run for the playoffs here. I also really like Portland. I know, just going off a little tangent here, but
wait a minute. You've faded Portland on every bet I can remember.
I know, but the other night I took them plus 4.5 and they got crushed, right, by the Nuggets. But I'm just going. I just think that the Trailblazers could make a move here too, and I'm hoping. I haven't really heard any rumors. I've just been, kind of hoping. But between those two teams, I really like Memphis a lot. But you can never count out Dame and McCollum.
Lyle, I'm going to come to you because this is fantasy related. Let's say that Winslow is actually hurt or isn't hurt. We need to play both sides of this. If he's healthy, how high does he go I mean, again, he has percentages issues, but is he an ad in a points league for you if we find out he's actually pretty close to playing?
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, again, if there's someone else better out there, then maybe not. But I suppose you could take a bit of a flyer on him and perhaps pull them out. He might have big games, but again, he played best at the Heat when he was on the ball and when he was getting the ball in his hands. And there's a few mouths to feed there at the Grizzlies. So I don't think there's a huge amount of value for him. But again, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be corrected by his playing. But I think at this stage it's more of a wait and see approach and see where he actually figures in the Grizzlies' offense and whether or not those percentages, given that he'll have less of the ball in his hands, they come up a little bit. But otherwise, no, I don't think I would be running out to get him.
What about on the flip side? What if he actually is hurt? I mean, what if Justice Winslow just isn't really going to play this year, and this is Memphis sort of banking on him being a part of their future? Would you take a flyer on a guy like a slow-mo Kyle Anderson because he filled in? I mean, he's never going to post those lines that make your eyes bug out of your head, but when he gets 25 to 32 minutes a game, he puts up pretty interesting stuff in the rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, field goal percent categories, and we got just a little flavor of it last night. There aren't too many other options. Not like they're going to roll Dion Waiters out there big minutes, and James Johnson is more of a power forward, which is Brandon Clark, Jaren Jackson Jr. territory. It feels like Slow-Mo is one of the very few remaining small forwards on that Memphis roster if Winslow's hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he's had the triple position as well for the last few years, I think. And so that is always a bonus as well. I've been a big fan of his game, actually. I mean, because he just looks like everything's in slow motion, as his name alludes to. But, I think he does have a little bit of value. But, again, I think it's a bit of a wait-and-see approach. I think they're going to feel it out and see what lineups they're actually going to run. I think Melton's going to get a big boost.
Great call.
Yeah, but otherwise, I think it is just a a wait and see approach and kind of suck it and see what happens. I don't know whether or not it's immediate value, but yeah, I completely agree that I think slow-mo will get a little bit of a bump, and it just depends on that back of Justice Winslow. You know, you never like to see injuries in any of the guys, but yeah, I think that'll be something a bit of a wait and see approach and see what happens there.
Hey, Dano.
Yes, sir.
I'm running through all sorts of news over here. Have we got anything on Waiters? Is he getting dropped or is he going to stick around?
I haven't seen anything yet on the outcome there. I mean, he's owed, I think there's 2 years left on his deal, right? This year and next?
Ooh, I think so, yeah. And because otherwise he'd be being talked about as an expiring. You just wonder about these situations. Are they going to try to put him on the floor? That would be...
Lord, I hope not. They're trying to win. I mean, if the Grizzlies were falling out of the picture, I'd say maybe they'd try weird stuff, but they're trying to win ball games.
Just never know. I mean, like, right now they have Dylan Brooks, who plays a very similar type of game as Dion Waiters, not passing and such. So you add another one of those kind of guys onto the floor, and this is where I think actually Justice Winslow will help the Grizzlies out, is Jay Crowder was very much a chucker for that squad. So when you can get the chuckers off the floor, it really does open things up for everybody else. Things generally work better. Stats generally get better. So that's something I'd like to know, because I do have a lot of D'Anthony Melton, like pretty much everywhere, I think on every team.
Does this make you feel better about Melton's chances since they did move all small forwards and ended up with sort of an overweight shooting guard, a hurt small forward, and a power forward coming back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm generally optimistic about Melton, and I'm optimistic that Memphis knows what they have there. I mean, they went out, they got him. This is a guy that if they don't commit to him, long term, seriously long term, he's going to be on the top of free agency lists for, guys like us that are looking for extreme value at a low cost, and teams that are out there looking for a backup 1 or a backup 2. This is a guy that could probably be a starter in this league at some point in time, say in the next 2 to 3 years. So you think that they notice this and that they see that the talent is there, and heaven forbid he gets 25 minutes per game, because he's getting his value right now in about 20. And so if he can get that uptick, I mean, he's looking at top 75 value. He's a guy that shouldn't be on any waiver wires. I'll put it to you that way. We just got to hope that they don't do anything silly like play Dion Waiters.
Well, I'm sure he can take himself out of the equation by passing out on team flights. Gentlemen, I know we're at the bottom of the hour here with our 2 first segment guests, and I think we actually have a few more waiting quietly. You guys aren't going to believe this, but we're trading Iris. We have an on-air trade that's about to take place. Iris Silver, as I bid you adieu here, quickly remind everybody where everyone can follow you on Twitter and what you're working on for Hoopball.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Ira Silver Magic, especially if you like to sports bet. I'll give out picks from anything from NHL, NFL, NBA.
Puppy Bowl.
You name it, I got it for you. So you can find me there. I'm one of the hosts on the podcast with Josh, Neil, and Devin at Hoopball Gaming Podcast. It's Today in Sports Betting. Pretty much almost every day except the weekends. And if you ever need any help, any advice, feel free to shoot me a message.
Check him
He's
out.
He's winning like 75% of his bets, by the way.
tail while they're hot. Lyle, it's bedtime for you down under. It's 1:30 in the morning.
Yes, basically, very excited. It's been good.
Are you going to be able to sleep?
Oh, no, not after this. I'm buzzing at the moment. So, it'll be good. We'll try our best.
Tell everybody again where they can find you on Twitter.
So you can find me at Lyle Swithenbank. Just try to see where I'm tagged because the last name is good fun. You can find me there, and also on the Hoopball Facebook page. I'm monitoring that. And on Saturday nights, 6 p.m. Pacific time or 10 a.m. Australian Western time, you can see me on there. Saturday Night Lyle. We run through a bit of stuff and have a bit of fun on there, which is good. So. Yeah, tune in. Get into it.
Saturday Night Lyle. I love that so much. Thank you, guys. We got a new crop of maniacs to join us here for the second segment on this thing. A new Ira. Again, a 1-for-1. Ira Guberman, what's up, man? I see your microphone. There you go. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Dan. I got a tough act to follow here, but I'll try and keep the strong Ira current going.
You guys, it's the same background. Are you guys sitting like 4 feet from one another?
Yeah, we have an actual Ira base here, so just comes out of the factory every day, no problem.
Just churning out Iras like you're going out of style. Chris, what's up, my man?
Hey, how you doing, Dan?
Chris is working on so many things here at Hoopball that I don't even want to get into it because honestly, I don't understand most of it. But I want to make sure people know where they can find you. Chris, where can folks find you on Twitter?
Oh, they can follow me on Twitter at CManUBC.
CManUBC. Ira, where can folks find you? Are you on social media?
Hey, on Twitter at Ira Goobs. That's Goobs for Goobs.
That's good. Thank you for telling me that, because now I can actually include it in the in the tweets for the show. We've got some news so far. So Ira, I'm just going to throw you right into the fire, right out of the chute here. Thoughts on what we were talking about when you hopped on the podcast, and then I'll kind of reset things. Actually, after talking to both of you guys, Justice Winslow, Kyle Anderson, DeAnthony Melton, Andre Iguodala, any of these names jump out as interesting to you going forward?
I remain very curious about DeAnthony Melton. I think the stat set's definitely there, so it's still a question of getting the minutes in Memphis. But unlike somebody like a Justice Winslow, who you can give him a ton of minutes, but I'm not sure that that's going to make for a very useful fantasy player. If Melton is able to emerge, that's definitely somebody you want on your roster.
Chris, same question. Anything on those key guys? I'm basically ignoring Dion Waiters, James Johnson, Solomon Hill. I know we have 4 hours, so it's not like we have limited time, but I think the time, even 4 hours, is too limited to talk about those guys. What about the main four that we've been talking about?
I think, yes, everyone has their eyes on DeAnthony Melton. That fantasy stat set he provides is just salivating. It's just a matter of him getting minutes. So he's definitely the one to watch there. But then who knows what they actually going to do. If he gets the minutes, then for sure he's going to be an ad in 12-team leagues.
We're hearing there's nothing massively breaking at the moment, mostly things that are sort of unbreaking. Chris Haynes reporting just a moment ago that Houston had kicked the tires on Tristan Thompson, but are unable to make the numbers work on that one. There was a report yesterday from Kelly Eco, I believe is the reporter, stating that Houston was in talks with a pair of Eastern Conference teams on possibly picking up a center. This basically confirms that the Cavs were one of those two teams, but that nothing really was able to emerge from it. Chris, as long as I've still got you on the line here, if the Cavs are off the table, where are we? And I know I'm making sort of a hard pivot into the Rockets, but if the Rockets actually pick up a starting caliber center, that's someone we would all want to keep an eye on for fantasy, right? Isn't that something worth pursuing on the fantasy side?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, they're obviously trying. From the previous trade, everyone's thinking, okay, they're just gonna try something crazy. They're just gonna go super small, running PJ Tucker at the center. But in the Western Conference, that's just not gonna work, right? So you gotta have some length. You can't be giving up half a foot to all the contending teams. Centers.
So you say.
Expect to get something out of that. So yeah, definitely a watch list item if they do happen to land a starting caliber center.
Ira, any thoughts on where they might be looking? What is the other potential? Is it Detroit? Is it Boston is looking for a center. Where might Houston still be kicking the tires on this center search?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think back to the Kenneth Faried experience last year with Houston, and he had some late round value for several weeks there, just being plugged into that roster. So I assume it's got to be a low level plug-in. I'd say what we're looking for at this point is Houston doesn't need much, but you put them in the pick and roll with James Harden and Russell Westbrook, and you could have a standard league player on your hands. So I'm definitely staying staying tuned because I think Daryl Morey, we know he's working the phones right now, and yeah, it doesn't take a lot for a Houston center to become fantasy relevant.
Yeah, that's that one spot there. Now with Russell Westbrook, obviously he's out at the moment with the thumb thing, but when he and James Harden are both healthy, there just isn't really enough in the guys that want to be able to either get assists or steals or blocks or rebounds or scoring of any kind. The only thing left is a little bit defensively. I guess I should have said steals, blocks are sort of still available for someone else. A little bit of rebounding and field goal percent, and that leaves the center spot. It's what allowed Clint Capella to thrive even in a lower usage role because, 6-8 shots a game, they were all dunks. That pans out well from a fantasy perspective. If you plug someone in there, we're hearing so far, and Brew, I know you picked him up and tweeted a picture of you picking up Jordan Bell in 30 deep. So I'm gonna force Aaron back in front of the microphone. I can see you guys. I don't know if you can see him. I don't think you can, but I can see him swinging the big microphone arm back in front of his face, taking a big pull off the coffee mug. What is Houston doing here? What are they just leaning into this so hard just to say screw it? Like an 8th place fantasy team saying, you know what? Let's shoot the moon.
I wish that Morey, and I've warned him now twice that
you have, huh?
I have. I've warned him that if he just goes out and gets who, like they would be legitimate contenders. They need somebody like Richaun Holmes to come in, and the Kings don't even want this guy. It is hilarious. Like he was by far their best player all year, and they promoted the entire rest of the team for the All-Star game. And they're going to have trouble re-signing him as well. So the Kings, if you're smart, bite the bullet and sell Richaun Holmes while you can. You can sell him right now at just an incredible value. I'm pretty sure he would return a first-round pick. The league can't be that stupid. But that's not going to happen, I don't think. So what they're doing here, though, I think is really interesting, and it kind of reminds me of fantasy league stuff. If you're in a fantasy matchup and you're just screwed, what you do is you play all your high variance players, all your guys with upside, and you just hope and pray that they're going to get it done. And in his case, I don't think the Rockets, as currently constituted, whether it was with Capella or not, had a chance at winning anything this year. And their window is very much always going to be right now. So what you do is you try to think, okay, is there a gimmick that we can go to that can give us a chance here? And that gimmick is going to be playing small with PJ Tucker at center. So I don't think they're so concerned with can this guy play or can that guy play? And they are out there, Christian Wood's name was tied to them. Whether or not anything comes of that, we'll kind of see there. They're kind of looking at a warm body approach for that position. And, I kind of dig it. Like, I don't think it's going to work, but if you've got something that's different, that's going to differentiate you amongst the rest of the league, the Lakers are going to come in and play huge. I don't know how they're going to deal with that, but, the opposite, if you think you're going to get beat by the Lakers size or just the Clippers being very, very good, at least you can throw out some gimmicky lineup there that can keep things interesting, which defensively, I think that lineup, even though you got known bad defenders in Harden, Russell Westbrook's not a good defender. But, collectively together, if James Harden wants to play defense, he can get after a little bit. Russell Westbrook, for not being a good defender, he will take chances and he can get out there in passing lanes. You add Robert Covington, you got Tucker, and then Gordon, he also can play in a playoff setting on the defensive side of the ball. So you could have this lineup that flies around, creates turnovers, gets up and down the floor, obviously has some good offensive skill, and they could be a little bit different. As far as Jordan Bell goes, I picked him up in 30 deep, 30 team league. I think I beat 10 of you by a split second. It was the fastest maneuver I'd made in a long time. And he's got top 75 upside if it all works out well. The stat set's been there in the past. He's just so bad at basketball.
So we have a precursor Woj bomb by all accounts, and then I want to reset things here because I sort of didn't do it at the bottom of the hour. Woj tweeting, the Clippers are trading Derek Walton Jr. to the Hawks for cash. So a roster spot is officially open in Clipperland. Nothing else has broken yet, but if you guys are wondering, will there be something else here on trade deadline Thursday? The answer out of Clippertown is very likely. Quickly, I want to reset things here on the podcast because we did it the first 4 minutes of the show, and we haven't for 35, and it's easy to sort of get caught up in the madness here. First of all, big thank you to everybody watching on YouTube right now because for a number of reasons. One, our YouTube page just cleared the 1,000 subscriber mark, which is amazing. I think that actually changes some of the functions that we can use on YouTube. I have to look into that a little bit. If you guys are watching, please do take a moment to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It has all of our podcasts available there. Any free live shows we do will be available on our YouTube page. All of our team shows, which there are 6 of those right now. We have daily betting shows, daily box score shows, my show, daily DFS fantasy show. So there are effectively, and the Cause and Brew show, of course. Great Aaron Brewski here with us. We have 11 podcasts, and every time an episode goes out on that channel, it also gets ported over onto our YouTube page. So subscribe to that. Click that thumbs up button right there. I see one of you clicked thumbs down, you meanie. So now we need an extra 100 of the thumbs up just to counterbalance it. Wink, wink. I am at Dan Besbris, as I said at the opening here. I know, that's silly. I know it's right there. But you can follow me on Twitter at that spot underneath my face. Follow Hoopball Fantasy on Twitter. That's directly above my head. And I already told you about the stuff. I can figure this out. Mirror image thing going on here. I don't do video very often, guys. If you were not one obvious at this point, I like sitting behind a microphone quietly in my bedroom doing podcasts. And hoop-ball.com is the website. Again, big thank you to everybody tuning in so far this morning. We're already almost at our high water mark from last year, and we're only 43 minutes into this thing. So this is going to be a hell of a day, and we're just waiting on the big news to drop. Ira, coming back to you, what do you think the Clippers are going to do? We might as well just follow this thread. I mean, we don't care about Derek Walton Jr. getting moved, but we've heard them linked to a lot of power forwards. Is there anyone? So forget the just what are they going to do, because that's too open-ended. That's an ESPN talk show thing. We want to talk about fantasy. Is there anyone they could bring in that would actually have fantasy value at their power forward spot?
Well, I think a popular target has been the Morris in New York. He's definitely been. There's been a lot of rumors, and with the changing of the guard in New York now, with management, apparently they're more open to not keeping Markieff long term. So it's exciting that maybe we do see a trade happen, and that Morris would definitely still be. I think he's going to take a hit if he were to join the Clippers, but. That's definitely somebody who's going to give you more from that position than whether it's JaMychal Green or who else do they have?
Which is a shame because I actually like JaMychal Green. I think his fantasy game's pretty good. He just, they're trying to jam too many pegs into the center spot for the most part. Chris, same general question. Is there anyone the Clippers could pursue? Is it Marcus Morris? Is it someone else? Because now Jay Crowder's off the books. Everybody was making the joke last week that Jay Crowder and Marcus Morris were literally fighting on the court to see which one of them gets to go to the Clippers. Could someone actually slot in there next to high-usage guys like Kawhi, Paul George, Lou Williams off the bench? Montrez takes a lot of shots. Could anyone really do enough in that spot? I feel like, my humble opinion, and please don't just agree with me, is most anyone they bring in would get squeezed out a little bit.
Yeah, as much as I don't want to, I'm gonna have to agree with you. And
you don't want to? Why not?
Of course, I want to be able to pick up someone that will help my team, right? But having Kawhi and Paul George there taking up all that usage, there's just not much left. They're really looking for specialty players that just to fill a void there. And I like you. I really do like how JaMychal Green fits into their framework, and I just hope they give him more time. I don't know. He hit how many threes last night? And the Clippers as a whole last night was going crazy from downtown. But yeah, like just he's quietly putting up decent production as a backup power forward for them. And yeah, like if they would just give him more run, then I think that should be enough for them. But I don't know about.
We will keep an eye on it.
Morris.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. Both Morrises have been linked all over the place over the last couple of days. I'm going to shoot back over to the Houston discussion. Our guy Marco tweeting Jonathan Fagan report to me that they had also kind of kicked the tires on Christian Wood, but it's looking like that's probably not going to come together, which makes me wonder here, Ira, I'll swing back to you on this one. Is Detroit finally realizing that they have something interesting here? I feel like it took other teams inquiring on Christian Wood for them to be like, hey, wait a minute, maybe we do like this guy.
Yeah, I think Christian Wood's a tough guy to figure out, under the Dwayne Casey regime in Detroit. He apparently now he's, out of the doghouse, seen as a valuable commodity. Just as all the offers start coming in at the trade deadline. If he's still out there, definitely pick him up because Wood's looking like he has a nice runway from here on out. But it's been a bumpy ride to this point, that's for sure.
It's nice that they're finally playing him alongside Andre Drummond. I've sort of ranted and raved about this on my podcast and sort of how early you can stash a guy when they weren't giving him the minutes, and then all of a sudden, like 2 games back, they just said, screw it, we'll just play him at power forward. That's an enormous deal. Obviously, it's going to impact his rebounding rate when he's playing alongside a guy like Andre Drummond, but his usage, when he's on the floor, he's going to the bucket, right? Like, even if he's playing power forward, he deserves to be rostered.
Without a doubt. And, he's got the 3 ball, he's got the rebounding, has the blocks, and he can shoot free throws. He's really the total package, and it's not like the Pistons don't appear to be going anywhere, whether or not they trade Andre Drummond at this deadline. Blake's not coming back. It's an open roadway now for Woods, so there's no reason why they shouldn't see what he's got and before they have him as a free agent at the end of the year.
Let me ask you one more thing, and then Chris, I want to come back to you on the same question. So Ira, you get to chomp first on this one. This is unrelated to the trade deadline, but it is sort of tangentially connected to it, and that is the Derrick Rose potential trade and then a potential fallout. So we're sort of getting ourselves ready right now, which is part of the battle. First of all, folks, can I just give everybody a quick PSA? Have the guy picked out on your team that you're ready to drop if something crazy happens. You don't want to be sitting there thinking about which guy makes them. I mean, obviously, if one of the guys on your team, their value changes dramatically, then that shifts things a little bit. But get your guys lined up. The moves that you're willing to make, get them lined up before anything crazy happens here on trade deadline morning. But we've heard, Ira, again, I'll come to you first on this, and we've heard that Derrick Rose is on the block. He's sitting out right now with a sore groin, which I believe is real. He came out of a ball game after playing 12 minutes, and he had a 20-point scoring run that actually got snapped because of it. But obviously, they're not going to put him back into a game. Yesterday, I think they had one where he sat it out because the trade deadline is today, even if he could have gone in that one. If Derrick Rose gets moved, I think we have to basically assume that his value will take a hit. But on the other side, this is a 2-parter, right? This is so that I can stop talking for a minute. This is a 2-parter. Derrick Rose probably takes a hit if he gets moved. Could Reggie Jackson finally get over the hump? Would the runway finally be clear enough? Because we've seen he's more in that 130 range when he was playing behind Blake Griffin as the orchestrator with Detroit. But if Derrick Rose is gone, who the hell is going to score on that team if not Reggie Jackson? Is it enough, though? Ira, the floor is yours.
Reggie Jackson, they can write books on this guy, I think. And it's, the thing is, I think we've seen Reggie Jackson with this sort of opportunity in Detroit before, and he does not make for much of a fancy basketball commodity. He's had a couple of big games since coming back. I'm a little it's pretty shocking how much run he has gotten already right off the bat. But we saw him basically. Ish Smith was forced into a timeshare when he was around in previous seasons. At this point, I can't imagine Detroit sees Reggie Jackson as a long-term solution. But he's definitely going to be out there, so I wouldn't tell you to ignore him if you see him on your wire and Rose is out the door. But I would not expect a Reggie Jackson renaissance where he's suddenly pushing Russell Westbrook for minutes like he was as a member of the Thunder back in the days. Just his fantasy game's never been that strong. It might just be a whole lot of nothing in Detroit. I'd say like somebody like Bruce Brown, though. And that's somebody to look at if Derrick Rose was no longer orchestrating the offense.
Interesting. Chris, same general question. What do we make of the Detroit potential backcourt situation?
Yeah, I think if they do move Rose, obviously Reggie Jackson gets that clear runway. However, I think we've seen enough of Reggie Jackson. We know, sure, he can put with that runway, with those touches, he will be able to put up points. But he also might be a drag on your field goal percentage, and he just doesn't do enough elsewhere to really be a fantasy commodity. So I'm not big on him, even if Rose gets shipped out of town.
And then Brewski, I haven't bugged you in a few minutes here. I'll force you to swing that microphone back over for a second. I'll hit you with all the questions we've been talking about here. The Rockets' potential pursuit of Christian Wood. It seems like that's probably not going to happen. Derrick Rose, is he actually going to get moved? Can Reggie Jackson get near the top 100? Are you doing anything on that front, or is this another kind of sit still moment on a morning where we want to be doing stuff?
Yeah, I don't know what Wood's value is around the league. I think the questions that everybody has about him are not yet answered. Is he going to be able to play hard? Is he going to be able to play smart? Those two things. I think he is actually learning those in Detroit. I think teams would probably like to have him after about a year of Dwayne Casey coaching. So Detroit probably holds on here, and I'm glad that I held on everywhere. I got him about 2 months ago. I do play in a little bit deeper leagues. A lot of them are really, really competitive. So you see something like that, you just kind of got to go get it. But it's all come to fruition, and he's just in the catbird seat for the rest of the season there in Detroit. I can understand why Houston would want to go get him. I don't know that he necessarily is too much of an upgrade over Jordan Bell in the way that he would be used there in Houston. He wouldn't get the ball so much, and then his defensive stuff would start to show up. Whereas Bell has at least played in some big games. And, I don't know. We're splitting hairs with those two guys. As far as Derrick Rose goes, I don't see him getting moved. And Reggie Jackson, I had a league where I really needed assists, and I just sort of took a flyer on him, and it seems to be going well. In an environment where they're going to be devoid of producers, he has about as good of a situation as you could hope for him. And really the issue is, can he stay healthy? If he stays healthy, I think he's probably got top 100 value the rest of the way in 8-cat leagues. So, that's better than we could have said for him a few months ago. So, did I miss anybody there, Dan?
I don't think so. I don't know. This is when you guys are going, that's my opportunity to try to check Twitter and post things in the chat room as well.
You need me to keep talking?
I need a producer. Ira, coming back to you on this one, we actually had a question come in on Twitter that I thought was interesting that I haven't really gone into all that much because for whatever reason I've sort of glossed over it. But what do we make of the Capella in Atlanta fallout? Like we've just talked, we've sort of all said, hey, there's nothing you can do there. If you have Capella, you're keeping him. Same deal with John Collins. But do you see any changes in their trajectory going forward? We'll talk a little Atlanta here.
Yeah, it's interesting imagining Clint in a new setting now. I think we saw him take a few years to kind of get settled and earn the full trust of the Rockets brass. And now when I look at him in Atlanta, clearly the team wanted him after making this deal, and it seems like he has a nice opportunity ahead of him as the 5-man. He has a true 4 now in John Collins next to him, so that's definitely going to be a little bit of a struggle for the rebounds now. And I'd say Clint should be largely stable, maybe a little dip in the rebounding, but still has a great orchestrator in Trae Young to operate next to. A very fast system in Atlanta, so not so different from Houston, where he was getting a lot of up and down action. If anything, I think John Collins is probably going to have a tougher time adjusting, and he's going to be more picking and popping now, as opposed to being the roll man next to Trae Young. So Clint should still be good. Maybe a little bit of a down arrow for next to John Collins. No?
So here's the actionable part of the question, and then Chris, I'm going to come to you with the same stuff, because I know you guys are actually running low on your window here. So quickly here from both of you guys, Ira first. Can you make any move related to Capella or Collins? Can you buy? Can you sell? Or would you rather just wait it out?
I guess the only thing with Capella, there has been some injury pop-ups happening. So, and if you're a little hesitant about his future trajectory, playing on a lousy Hawks team for the rest of the year, you could try and sell high on him when there's a lot of hype, a lot of buzz around the name. With John Collins, it's been a rocky season with the suspension now, and he's been having a very nice return, but I'm not sure that you're going to be able to sell high on him at this point. I think people kind of know what's going on there and realize he's playing next to Clint Capella now.
Chris, same general question. Can you make is there a way to carve this Capella-John Collins situation into a fantasy win somehow? Would you consider buying them if you think somebody's concerned? I feel like it'd be tough to sell them right now.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to sell them. Everyone knows that with Capella coming into town, both of them is going to take a bit of a hit. But if you're in your leagues, so you know your league mates well. If you can sense someone concerned about either one of them, they're going to take a hit, but still they're going to be hell of a lot good productive players for your fantasy team. So definitely, if you have a chance to buy on them, I would buy on them.
Interesting. All right, Chris, we got about 60 seconds before you guys got to go. Once again, what is your Twitter handle? Where can folks find you?
My Twitter handle is @CManUBC. Let me spell that out for you.
Yeah, please.
@CMANUBC. So feel free to give me a follow, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Yeah, feel free indeed. Ira, same stuff, man. Thanks to both of you guys for hopping on for this half hour. You said Ira Goobs?
Yep, that's correct on Twitter. It's at Ira Goobs. That's GOOBS. So you can follow along for some very frustrating Knicks takes when I live tweet the games. And I do the Daily Dish every Monday night. So I'm a man of the people. So come on by on your Tuesday mornings and give that a read every week.
Outstanding. Hey, when you go back to Ira headquarters, tell everybody I said hey.
You got it. Yep, we'll be rolling out a few more today. Don't worry.
We got Santino. We got Steve popping on for the 10 o'clock hour. We are officially 1 full hour into our trade deadline live coverage, and the world waits for the shoe to drop. So far, we've covered all the things that have happened to this point, but a big one since we've come on air has yet to occur. They're just saving up for us right now. Steve, what's up, man? Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Dan. How you doing?
Hanging in there. Santino, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, what's going on? Doing good. How about yourself?
We are A-OK. We're rumbling and a bumbling over here. I want to bring you guys in and kind of introduce you to the watchers, the listeners, and then we'll get your takes on some of the things that have gone down so far over the last 48 hours or so. Santino, where can folks find you on Twitter? What are you working on at Hoopball?
So you can find me at Santino Gacone on Twitter. Fairly easy. It's just my name with the @ symbol. On Hoopball, I'm a blurber. I'm a podcaster, and I was in charge of the Rate My Team thread, which got a lot of traction before the year started.
Yeah, well done on that front. Steve, I know personally you are taking a whole bunch of things off of my plate, but tell everybody what you're working on at Hoopball, where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me. It's at Steven Vidovich on Twitter. It's spelled just like Stefan. And then it's Vidovich. I also do the blurbs for Hoopball Wednesday and Thursday afternoons. And I take part in the live streams, which you guys should definitely check out. Santino's one of the great pros that we have, giving fantasy advice, answering all of the premium subscribers' questions. And then I also wrote up an article last night. I write the pickups of the night every Wednesday night.
Beautiful. So what do you think about what we've got going on so far? We're really 4 trades in, effectively. I'm not even counting the Derek Walton Jr. deal until the other thing, whatever it might be, happens on the Clippers side. Rob Covington, Clint Capella, all of the peripheral pieces in that pandemonium trade. The Iguodala trade details being released this morning. Dwayne Dedmon trade. Alec Burks, Glenn Robinson trade. That's what we've got so far. Nothing that's shaking the earth. Steve, I don't know if you caught some of our discussion from earlier. Justice Winslow, obviously a name that I think folks are discussing right now. Iguodala, Jay Crowder, DeAnthony Melton, obviously as a potential beneficiary. Kyle Anderson. What are you feeling here at this moment? Have you made any moves in your fantasy leagues as a result of these trades?
Yeah, I did pick up a couple of guys this morning. One guy, he didn't get traded, but the Warriors have a lot of minutes up for grabs by trading Glenn Robinson III and Alec Burks to the Sixers. So I went ahead and picked up Eric Paschall. He's lost a little bit of buzz because he performed well earlier on in the season, and now he's dropped off. But there's going to be a lot of minutes to go around in Golden State. They didn't add any players in return for Burks and Robinson. So that's about, I think together they were probably averaging about 50 minutes a game. So there's going to be minutes to spread around. And I think Paschall can be a good scoring option at the end of your bench.
Santino, what's up, man? Same general stuff. Have you made any moves as a result of all this stuff?
So far I've made one move, but I'm close to making a few moves. It just depends on how the rest of the trade deadline shapes out.
Okay,
so
what do we got?
I picked up Juancho after the trade because I know the Timberwolves are looking to get Deangelo Russell and possibly someone else, maybe an actual point guard to play point guard for the team because I don't think Jarrett Culver could. So I was very close to picking up Beasley, but if they add someone else, I mean, he's not really worth. I only have a few pickups. He wouldn't be worth a pickup if someone else comes in there and cuts his time down to 20 minutes.
I gotta cut you off. We got a big one. We finally got a big one.
Oh, so just as I said, that's why I didn't pick him up.
And this is why we do the show at 10:04 a.m. Pacific time. Golden State has agreed to trade Deangelo Russell to the Minnesota Timberwolves in a package that includes Andrew Wiggins, a 2021 protected first, a 2022 second. Jacob Evans and Omari Spellman will be on their way to Minnesota as well. Holy moly. Brew, I got to come to you first, man. I know, big dog, swing that microphone in. What do you got? Immediate reaction.
Woof, woof, woof. Give me the details one more time here. I just got to see this straight. I see Spellman's out. Evans is out. Okay, so I just got done writing and publishing this. So you go to the website. I kind of expected Russell to get moved. So Kai Bowman has been getting groomed for this role all year, but they've never really had the roster math work out to where he could just be consistent in production. Now, he's a percentages guy, and he's also been pretty damn inconsistent, but he's also never really been given the reins, like totally. And so if he can just simply get you like 5-6 assists, something in the ballpark of 13 points, 3 boards, those percentages are going to be good. And he's got a chance at top 100 value here. So I think, Wiggins obviously going to take a lot of the ball handling over there. And you've got other players that do need to exit stage right. So Draymond Green is up. He's got to kind of call it an early season. You kind of got to get closure on Steph and Clay to where they're not coming back. Because if those guys are coming in and out of the lineup a lot, it just is a completely chaotic situation from a fantasy standpoint. But if this team can settle in, Marquise Chris, I already think he's a must-own guy. He was actually on the top of my list before this deal as far as players that you should be adding to your roster. And Damian Lee was a guy that looked to be somebody you would want to put on teams. Now with Andrew Wiggins coming, I think he's more of a flyer pickup with more of a late round expectation rather than somebody that can climb up into the middle rounds. So Damian Lee's stock goes way down with this. Wiggins, I think he's just going to hold steady. He's had a pretty good ramp in Minnesota to do what he's been doing. He's faded a little bit, but I think this team in Minnesota, I mean, I watched them play the Kings the other night, and they all looked like they had rolled over. I think they've all known that people were going to be heading in and out, and Karl-Anthony Towns hasn't been happy. So I think this might actually boost Andrew Wiggins because now he is playing for a good franchise in a brand new arena. It's going to kind of reinvigorate his career because now he's looking forward to something that could be pretty special. They're playing next to Steph and Clay. As far as the picks that are going out, I don't know what the pick situation is here. So we've got.
Yeah, who cares? We can't add them anyway.
yeah, no, that's fine. But I am curious, like, what kind of the Warriors are taking on some pretty big money here. So this is a big deal for Wiggins, I think. I think he goes back to the Wiggins that we saw at the beginning of the year, which was a really strong mid-round guy. He's faded back to being more of a top 80, top 90 guy. Still ahead of where he's been in the past, but not quite where he was in the beginning of the year when he looked like he really turned a corner in fantasy leagues. But Kai Bowman and really Marquise Chris, I think this solidifies any question marks that there would be out there about him. I mean, for 20 minutes a game, he's a late round value. So he could be playing 27, 28 minutes a game, leading the tank, which is something that Wiggins can help them with as well. But yeah, no, this is decidedly good for Wiggins. It's decidedly good for Chris as well as Kai Bowman as well.
And I think that, and then, who's really upset right now are our guests from the 9 to 10 a.m. hour who left right before this trade broke. This is, to me, wonderful for Karl-Anthony Towns fantasy owners because this is the guy he's wanted. Minnesota has officially said, Cat, we have done literally everything now to make you happy. We have Deangelo Russell. Your boy is here. Play hard, both ends of the floor. It's time to go win some ball games. I think if you're a Cat fantasy owner, this just alleviated a lot of your concerns about what sort of headspace he was going to be in the rest of the season. Am I nuts?
Yeah. I want to jump in on that because, like, in that Sacramento game, and I've watched more of Cat because of this, he looked like he was just giving up, and his comments last night after the game, this is a guy that he was like kind of pouting like a 13-year-old. And that has translated not just in, his play, but also you kind of wonder about that knee injury. Was he putting pressure on that franchise to go out there and do something he wanted them to do? So, I mean, this team has been completely just dead for forever. And now, to your point, yeah, this is big. This is going to revitalize him until they figure out that they're going to keep losing. But you'll cross that bridge when you get there. I think this gets him through the next 20 games, probably, the next 20 games after that as well, or however many are left, 30. He's been really frustrating for fantasy owners this year because he's been such a consistent asset in the past, and having that big donut hole in there. This though will definitely be a good thing for his value.
Yeah, about 70 new people tuned into the show right after that Woj bomb broke. So you guys were waiting and we were waiting too. Steve, what's going on, man? Thoughts on how this all breaks down? I mean, I think I'm generally with Brew. I'm just hard on the Marquise Chris train right now.
Oh, I completely agree with you on Marquise. As soon as they traded Willie Cauley-Stein, I picked up Marquise Chris in all my leagues. They've liked him since the beginning of the year, and now his only competition is Kevon Looney, who I will say has looked for the first time all season healthy. In the game the other night, he played the second highest minute total of the season so far, and it was only 17 minutes. But I have a feeling that Kevon Looney is finally healthy, but I think Marquise Chris is going to see 30 minutes and is a must-own player. Kevon Looney is a watch list guy for now. As far as the trade from a reality standpoint, I'm kind of disappointed as a Warrior fan myself. I thought they could get more for Deangelo.
Yeah,
I was
agree with you on
hoping
that.
for Jared Culver in return over Andrew Wiggins, but that's how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, no real true prospects in this. It's all picks and then a big old contract. Although, as I sort of dial my brain forward, don't worry, Santino, you're coming up here in just a second. As I dial my brain forward to a healthy Warriors roster next year, obviously Steph and Clay, the backcourt, so there really wasn't a space for D'Lo anyway, and they created this weird depression for them. I'm with you, though. I'm surprised they didn't get more because everyone knew that Minnesota was going to have to sell the whole farm. This was the one guy that could sort of save their superstar and save their season, not in a real win-loss perspective, but just from a, is this a total dumpster fire, or at least are our guys actually fighting and playing hard? Wiggins, I mean, presumably is going to play a lot in Golden State, right? Steve, I know you're a Warriors guy, but I mean, who else can they really throw out at that spot now?
Yeah, Wiggins is going to get all the minutes that he can handle. I don't know if they'll play the same game that they have been with their other star players, where any minor injury results in a 3-4 game absence, or if they're just going to let Wiggins and the young guys run the rest of the season. That remains to be seen. But yeah, Wiggins is going to get all the minutes that he can handle in Golden State.
Santino, you've been very patient. Thoughts on this insane trade?
Wow, it seemed like a foregone conclusion a couple days ago, and then it didn't seem like it would happen. And right as I was just saying, I think as I was saying, I was almost picking up Michael Beasley, but they were talking about D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell comes as I mentioned his name, which is it's weird.
Yeah, say somebody else's name. Let's see what happens. Did you say Jordan Bell? Because Jordan Bell actually just got traded to Memphis, by the way. We'll break that down in a second.
From who did
Houston.
They get? Okay, we'll break that down.
Bruno Caboclo is on his way back to Houston, so that's next on the list. Let's stick with Cat and Wiggins.
Tackle
and
one at
right
a time.
Now.
Yeah. So like I was saying, Malik Beasley. I still like him now that Andrew Wiggins is gone because he still has the path to 30 minutes or so. But D'Angelo Russell's there and he's a gunner. He's going to take a lot of those shots away. I'm glad that Cat, after I know Brewski said it earlier, I'm glad that Cat got someone that he really wants for all of a sudden. He was really angry last night. A lot of explicitives and a lot of talking terrible about the franchise. So he got someone he's really comfortable with, and they're supposedly good friends, so that's good for him. I think I don't know how I feel about that knee injury. I know Brewski brought it up. It seemed odd that once they traded Jeff Teague, I don't know if there was friction between them, but once they traded Jeff Teague, Cat went from day-to-day for a month and a half to I'm healthy and I'm not missing any more games. So I don't know if there was something to that. But
yeah, there's a hashtag Jimmy was right going around on Twitter, which, I mean, listen, if this is what makes Cat happy, if this is the one, I don't like Santino.
Can't complain.
Could he ask for anything more at this point? This is all of it.
And they didn't really give up much. They gave up a top 3 protected first rounder, a second rounder, and I did not honestly think that the Warriors would want Andrew Wiggins in that contract back. That's almost $30 million a year for the next 4 years for a very average player, but they got rid of them too. So this trade was killer for them. On fantasy value, Andrew Wiggins has all the shots he can handle in that rotation in Golden State. There's really nobody that could shoot the basketball and that wants to shoot the ball. They got rid of Glenn Robinson and Alec Burks. I did like Damian Lee, but with Wiggins there, I'm not so sure. I do like how Brewski brought up Kai Bowman. That's a sleeper guy to look at. Marquise Chris is a good option now that there's really no big men. I mean, besides Draymond, Eric Pascal's probably going to play more small forward. You also have Kevon Looney, who looks a little bit better, but I don't know if the Warriors do want to push him over the 20-minute mark. If he plays 30 minutes, he's a pickup, but I don't really see that happening. This trade, it changed a lot of things from the last day. It's crazy.
But we knew, though, right? We knew eventually Minnesota was going to hit whatever demands the Warriors were putting on the table, or it was going to happen because we've already talked about it on the show. Minnesota sent out every point guard they could find on their roster, just one after the other. Teague, Napier. It's like, okay, look, like we have to do this now.
It just seems weird because they said they were at a stall yesterday, but this trade, they didn't really give up as much as I thought they were. They got rid of Wiggins and his contract, and they gave up a first rounder, which was assumed anyway, to get D'Angelo Russell and then a second round pick. But I thought what was the stall if this was like the haul? Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not totally sure of what was the negotiations that they were saying, oh, we're so far off.
My best guess, Santino, is that this was related to the protections on the pick. That's all this stuff ever is at the end. Some team leaks that talks are dead and says, hey, you want the talks to not be dead? Move the protection from top 5 to top 3, or I don't know, whatever it happens to be. Brew, I'm going to pivot back to you because this smaller trade, and then we'll talk more about the D'Lo stuff because this is obviously the big bomb of the morning. But for fantasy players, sometimes the small ones are the ones that jump up. Bruno Caboclo feels much more like a Houston type of guy than any of the other centers they had picked up. Am I crazy in thinking they might actually play him a little bit?
No, you're not crazy at all. And rebounding is something that he's been pretty good at, and that's what they're going to need with these small lineups. So can he bang? No, he can't. He can't do that. So they're still in a position where it's either going to be PJ Tucker, Isaiah Hartenstein, Bell's out now. So to me, it feels like there's another shoe left to drop, but he fits a need for them with respect to rebounding, with respect to just giving them additional length, and he fits that mold of when you're playing against Westbrook, you're playing against Covington, you're playing against Tucker. Those 3 guys, they cover a lot of real estate. They gamble as a unit. So it'll be interesting to see if Caboclo can keep up with the gambling and the speed.
What's a maximum? What's a best case scenario for him in Houston?
Best case
15
scenario.
minutes?
No, I could actually see him getting 20 minutes per game. He's handled that in the past for Memphis. So it's funny being 2 years away from being 2 years away. What's that? 4 years, 5 years? I think we're there, and he's got that experience that I just think it'll translate well to a Houston environment. Now, new coach, maybe he can't hack it. I mean, this is a team with Western Conference contention in mind. So it's a lot different than Memphis. But, I think he, in a best case scenario, could get you something like top 80, top 90 value. That's a best case scenario.
Yeah.
But, that's what you're trying to measure out here. If his best case scenario was top 125, he's not worth your time. At 80 and 90, unless you're in like a 6-team, 7, 8-team league, that stuff plays. So I do think, in the pecking order of all of these sort of lower end ads that we're seeing here today, he's definitely not in the Chris range. He's more, he's definitely not in the Melton, range, if we're sort of gauging players that we're sort of liking right now. He's a cut or 2 underneath that for me. But, he probably, I don't know if there's a player off the top of my head that I don't really like.
What about, let me throw back to some of the names I mentioned earlier in the show. What about someone like a Slow-Mo? Do we think Justice Winslow is badly hurt?
Yeah, I would rather have Caboclo than either of those guys.
All right, there you go. See?
Yeah.
Steve, what do you think? Same boat, similar boat, different boat? It's all boats, by the way. I'm going boats for the moment.
Boats and...
Oh, did we lose Steve? I may have. No, there he is.
I had my mic muted.
Oh, he's talking. He's talking into a dead air.
I'm still shocked by this D'Angelo Russell trade myself.
I know we're talking. We got an actual Warriors guy on here for it. Good timing.
I was doing. Do you mind if I go back to this D'Angelo Russell trade for a second?
Not at all, man. This is the one that people are probably tuning in for. I'm taking us into Caboclo territory, and I'm sure the chat room's like, "What are you doing?"
Well, I do have Caboclo on a dynasty team, and so I'm really happy about this trade. I think he will play minutes with Houston. I totally agree with Brewski on that. But I was calculating all of the guys that the Warriors have given up over the last couple weeks. They gave up Willie Cauley-Stein, Jacob Evans, Omari Spellman, D'Angelo Russell, Alec Burks, and Glenn Robinson III. 6 guys. And they got back 1 guy in return. So they gave up all the guys together played average 149 minutes a game. So Andrew Wiggins, let's say, the max he could average would be 48 minutes a game, and that's unlikely. He's seeing probably about 32 minutes a game. So there are going to be minutes available in Golden State for rest of season value. I don't know exactly who it will be. They'll likely sign Marquise Chris to a rest of season contract. Kai Bowman is at the end of his 45-day contract, but I totally foresee them using him as a point guard and signing him rest of season. But there is going to be a lot of value in Golden State, and I do think Eric Paschall is going to be one of the main guys rest of season, maybe until Steph and Clay get back if they do. I really like Eric Paschall's future there rest of season.
Interesting. Santino, what are your thoughts on everything? The window is open here. Let's just talk about anything we want, and then after that, I want to reset things here for a second.
I'll try and do a little rapid fire then.
No, take as much time as you need, man. We got 2.5 hours left on this bad boy.
Yeah, as Steve said, there's a lot of minutes open in Golden State, and they were a dumpster fire before they got rid of everybody. So just think about that. People are that you didn't even think about before are gonna just walk into value at this time. It's great. Like maybe even Jordan Poole might come out of nowhere again. They're trying to play him. He's just a name to throw around. Anybody on that team could be good besides Bowman, Chris, and Paschall do look like the best options out of the waiver wire. But, I mean, someone else could jump out of there. As far as Bruno Caboclo, I do like him going to Houston. They didn't have anybody, and they got rid of the other big man that was supposedly going to get about 20 minutes a game. I kind of like Jordan Bell from a fantasy perspective a little more in that role just because he has shown production in a very limited roles, and he can get you 2.5 blocks if he's seeing 25 minutes a game. But Bruno Caboclo is going to, I mean, for deeper leagues, he's a name to consider, but I still think unless they get someone else, PJ Tucker's in line for like 36 minutes, probably all at the 5.
Or
Robert
48.
Yeah, they're going to throw Robert Covington at the 4 for the whole time. They're embracing the small ball of small ball. Like they're ready to play everybody who can shoot and stretch the floor. And we'll see how that happens or how that works out for them in the playoffs. But yeah, I remember before the Deangelo Russell trade, I was talking about how I only picked up Juancho because I thought his role was safe because I seen the Timberwolves were looking to get another guard. And even though they got Spellman, I don't think Spellman's a good basketball player. He was only a decent fantasy value because he was playing on the dumpster fire that was the Warriors. Now that he's battling for minutes with people who are actually better than him, I don't see him really doing much. So yeah, I feel Juancho is probably the safest of that group. I mean, obviously Russell, but I would rather have Juancho slightly more than Beasley because you have Russell taking all those shots up. Who else was traded? There was another. Now they're all coming in right at the last second.
Well, that's okay. I'll do a show reset here, Santino. I'll come back to you because it sounds like you got more things in the hopper there. I'm trying to type them all into a notepad document, which is that's using the least amount of RAM on my computer as possible. But again, I wanted to take a moment here to welcome everybody to this trade deadline live show. We are cruising right now. The number of viewers, I believe, has surpassed whatever we got to last year. And we're, again, only 84 minutes into this thing. So welcome. As I've been trying to do, and maybe I can get it right with my actual mirror image stuff. Nope, I screwed it up already. It's that way. The logo is towards my wall here. I can do this. That is the 2020 NBA trade deadline show. Please do take a moment. I know there's a bunch new of you here that are tuned in over the last 30, 40 minutes since this big news dropped. Please click the thumbs up button on the YouTube page. That's part of what sort of helps it pop up in other people's windows and people can find it. And then subscribe to our YouTube page. I know I've said that before, and some of you are hearing this for a second or third time, but you know what? It's a 4-hour show, and on radio you'd have, 20 commercial breaks? More? This you have 0. You have 0 commercial breaks. You're just going to hear me yelling at you about a few things we want you to do. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, we have all of our podcasts here available on YouTube. So you don't have to subscribe to every different show, although it'd be sweet if you did on iTunes and drop those nice reviews. But if you want just one big hub where all of our podcasts and shows end up, it's our YouTube channel. So again, click that thumbs up. I see a few of you actually are doing it as I'm asking you to. Thank you. You're the best. And then subscribe to the page as well. You can follow Hoopball on Twitter at HoopballFantasy. That is directly above my head. My Twitter handle is here at Dan Besbris. at Santino Caccone, Caccone is how you spell the last name. Steven Vidovich on Twitter. We've already spelled that one for you, but we can do it again. STEPH, not a V, PHENVIDOVICH. And of course, the great Aaron Brewski, who I'm trying to bring in as infrequently as possible so he can make sure that Hoopball is A-OK. And that is roughly where we sit right now. Hey, you know what I haven't actually done on one of these live shows before that I'm going to do on this one for the first time? If any of you guys are watching and thinking, I want to do this, hit us up. Don't do it on Twitter today because I'm not going to see anything that happens on Twitter for a few hours. Email teamhoopball@hoop-ball.com if you want to be a contributor at Hoopball and be part of our team, whether that's writing, podcasting, marketing, sales. Hit us up. We can throw an application into the hopper, and maybe you can be part of this insanity next year. So again, big thank you to everybody clicking that thumbs up and the subscribe button. You guys are the best, and I'll do this again in about a half hour or so. Santino, did I give you enough time to run through the Rolodex there?
Yeah, I just refreshed the trade deadline, and I never touched on the trade last night with Iguodala and Winslow, and I don't even know what the trade fully is because they keep changing it. But yeah, I don't think Iguodala is a fantasy player. He wasn't really a fantasy player last year. He's probably going to be in a similar role. Great addition to a team that's looking to make a championship run, but for fantasy, not really. The thing that stinks the most about the trade is DeAnthony Melton and Josh Jackson. I was so excited to see both of them get expanded roles, and then hearing that they're getting back Justice Winslow and Dion Waiters. Unless they buy out Waiters and or Winslow is hurt a lot more than they expect or they believe, then it really puts a damper on the potential of DeAnthony Melton or Josh Jackson because they're not going to get the minutes that you would want them to get to become like standard league relevant. I mean, they're pretty close now, especially Melton. Melton's pretty close now, but I was hoping that he would get to 25, 30 minutes a game, but he'll probably still stay near 22 in that role, which is a bummer because he's a very fantasy friendly guy. As far as being a basketball fan, I'm a fan of the Lakers. I'm so pissed that the Grizzlies did that and they held on to Iguodala. They turned Jamal Washburn into a first-round pick, Justice Winslow, and Dion Waiters. I really wanted them to buy him out, but as a fan of basketball, I gotta give them a standing ovation for holding their ground, keeping Iguodala and getting all that from a guy that was presumably supposed to be bought out. So that kudos to them.
Well, to be fair, really Hoopball is sort of like a surrogate Grizzlies fan club at this point. So you have full go on being a part of that mix. Yeah, I mean, look, let's pause the fantasy for just 1 second here. The Grizzlies rebuild was arguably the best rebuild that I can remember in my adult life, right? Like they did this in a heartbeat.
They did it in less than a year, like 8 months.
Incredible. Incredible. They took on, and they did it by taking on salary in really smart ways. And they just did it again today. They took on salary for next year to get a guy they like in Justice Winslow, who they think can be part of their growth and keep their flexibility for that big 2021 free agency class. It's remarkable. I mean, massive job well done. Getting a high draft pick obviously doesn't hurt, but they weave their way into that. Grizzlies are fun, man. What a great team to watch.
And then they signed Dylan Brooks to a very team-friendly contract today as well.
He's gotten better. He's gotten better this year.
They really developed him well. They have Justice Winslow is only making $13 million a year, which is a good contract if he can come back and be what he was pretty much last year and take another step. They got Ja Morant. I mean, obviously. They got Brandon Clark, who looks really good. They developed Triple J, who looks really good. JV looks good now. I mean, that team is they're kind of, they remind me of the Thunder when everyone was like, oh, they're a couple years away. And then all of a sudden, year two with everybody, they were in the finals. This team, I don't know if they can get to the finals because there are so many stacked teams out there, but instead of rebuilding, they just went straight from, I know they're under 500 now, but they're still in the playoffs currently, which is not where we thought they would be.
No.
And they did that, like you said, they took on contracts and they played a fantastic game in their front office, and they made all the right moves. So kudos to them.
Absolutely. Steve, there's like a weird look of, I don't know if it's forlorn or calm acceptance over there. I'm going to make sure your mic is on this time so you're not yelling into the ether. But now that it's all settling in for you, you doing okay, man?
This season has been a total wash for Warrior fans. I'd like to call it a red shirt year myself. So I've just accepted the fate. Hopefully, obviously, the Warriors made the trade to hope that Andrew Wiggins will become the player that people thought he would be when he got drafted. And we'll see. It remains to be seen. On another note, do you think – I have a question. Do you guys think that Philadelphia is going to make another couple moves? Because it was reported that since they added 2 players, they would have to waive 2 players off their roster in order to make room for Burks and GR3. So is there a move coming in Philadelphia?
My take on that would be most other GMs know that they could just wait it out and wait for them to cut somebody because – right, like why would you? It's sort of the same thing as we talk about with Iguodala. Like you figured that they were going to eventually have to cut him if nobody came through with the offer they wanted, but they got it because teams valued Iguodala. Do teams value the 2 worst players on the Sixers roster right now? Which would be like, I think I heard Trey Burke was a possible cut. Is he out there? Am I getting that right? So I think they probably end up having to just waive some people if I had to guess. But I don't know, Steve. What are you thinking?
Yeah, that makes sense to me, unless they move one of their more – maybe they could move Mike Scott or something, but I agree with you. I think the other GMs would know what's going on, and they'll just wait until the buyout market.
One would think. Brew, you're part of the unofficial Hoopball Memphis Grizzlies fan club. What do we make of Jordan Bell going to Memphis? What's the purpose behind that deal for the Grizzlies, big dog? I'm trying to let you rest as long as possible over there.
The purpose, man, I don't know. The purpose. What did they get, or what did they give to get that?
Bruno Caboclo.
I'm a deal or 2 behind.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so they gave Bruno.
I figured you're typing things up over there. So Bruno Caboclo for Jordan Bell. Yeah.
No. Yeah, that makes no sense to me. Maybe if I squint, they may. I can't even do that. I was thinking about the wildebeest. Like, is that somebody that they would want to try to get off of, or and would there even be a market for him? I'm not sure about that. So I don't know why they've done this deal. Maybe they just don't think very highly of Caboclo. Yeah, no. And our guy David Williams is breaking news over there that he's ready to go in a couple weeks. Caboclo. He's actually participating in basketball activities. So shouts out to David, and they're doing a great job with the Grizzlies pod. And I love the Grizzlies now. God, man, they've everything's broke their way, and they're so much fun to watch right now.
Yeah, isn't that great, by the way, that David's breaking the news? I retweeted that. I just, as it was, flying by on my thing. That's our guy.
Did he really get the wildebeest to sign a photo?
He signed a photo with the word wildebeest on it.
I think he broke a rule of journalism somewhere in there.
I don't care. We have a Jonas Valanciunas photo that's in David's possession.
A great nickname. Is that a thing?
I did that. Nickname? That was me. And David said he loved it.
Yeah, that's a great nickname. I hope that one sticks.
Me too. The wildebeest. I'm not even, it doesn't even make any sense, but I don't care. My college roommates and I, and this is a long time ago now, used to refer to Marc Gasol in his younger days as the wolf beast because of his facial hair. So I just sort of, wildebeest is obviously an actual animal, and wolf beast is a combination of 2 words. But that was sort of how we got there. The latest rumor, by the way, and Brew, I've already got you on the horn here, is that the Clippers are in, quote, hot pursuit. Yes, you heard that right. They are in hot pursuit of Marcus Morris. It feels like it's price driving time. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, I think they want Landry Shamet. I don't think they're going to get him.
Wasn't Hot Pursuit a terrible, buddy cop movie with Reese Witherspoon 3 years ago?
Wait, who?
No, that's right. Yeah, I'm getting that right. I'm looking it up.
Who is with Reese Witherspoon?
Sofia Vergara was the other one. I just looked it up. Hot Pursuit. That's what's happening with Marcus Morris right now.
That sounds like a terrible movie.
I think it was.
Yeah, no. So okay, Morris fits that team really well. He's a pretty good basketball player once you get over all of the craziness that a Morris twin brings to the table. But his price is actually pretty good. I mean, you're seeing him in New York be able to handle, like, I don't want to say like he's a number one, but he's taken that squad underneath his wing and he's been their number one. And he's handled it pretty well. And he's actually handled isolation basketball pretty well, way better than anybody probably believes. And so he brings the toughness, he brings the size. I think he can defend fives other than, the biggest fives in the league. And that's exactly what the Clippers need. And it is really interesting that, they're going to have to part with somebody to get him. So I don't know if that would be Shamet. He's too good to give up, in my opinion, for them. But I kind of feel like Montrezl Harrell is the guy that might have leaked the stories about the Clippers not liking preferential treatment for their stars. It's I don't have any intel on that, but he has hit the rumor mill, since then. And he does strike me as a guy that's had to work his way up from the bottom. And seeing guys that sort of take the year off, getting ready for the playoffs, I could see that, and especially them being new, I could see that rubbing him the wrong way. So I'm curious if he's somebody that would be on the move in exchange for getting a Marcus Morris. Maybe you get a third team involved, and I don't know how those salaries all work out. But I'm gonna
butcher a name here, by the way, because we're getting some small stuff coming through and like a precursor type of deal. So I figure I might as well throw that out there because might as well. Small guy. Portland is trading Skal Labissiere to the Atlanta Hawks and cash. So the Hawks were just like, hey, you pay me, I'd take Skal off your hands. So he's now a Hawk, which feels basically irrelevant at this point because the Hawks have now traded for 3 centers at the trade deadline. And the Clippers, Shams just tweeted that the Clippers and Knicks are getting closer on Marcus Morris. I believe his words are seriously engaged, which is way less funny than Hot Pursuit. I don't think there's a bad buddy cop movie called Seriously Engaged. I think that's a rom-com with Ryan Reynolds. The players involved on the Clippers that might go to New York, and this is not confirmed yet, here comes butcher time. Terrence Mann is one of them. And then anybody want to, any of you guys on this show know how to pronounce the other player's name in this tweet? Because I'm going to screw it up, and I don't like screwing things up.
Fiondu Kabengele.
Do we know if that's right?
Of course it's right.
Okay, there we go. So that's the names right now. It's not a done deal. But
I see a really, Matt Peterson's guy I follow on Twitter. He asks a pretty important question here. Like he says another contender isn't going to outbid this. These 2 young players and he calls it a cruddy Clippers pick. You're really gonna let those, like, if you're somebody else that could use Marcus Morris, you're not going to be able to beat that,
or even just to block the Clippers.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're another, it doesn't feel like this one's over yet. Like that there's some posturing going on, but when you see a tweet like this from Shams, it usually doesn't move too far off of it.
Brandon, by the way, is Brandon Marcus, who will be on the show here shortly, is giving me, and Riaz Danani, also of Hoopball, are going pronunciation guide in the chat room. But you guys are going all caps. I don't know which syllable is the one I pronounced. Give me
so I didn't get it right.
I don't know. Kabengele. Mafiandu Kabengele is what I'm going with right now.
I bet that M is silent, Dan.
I don't know. Riaz says pronounce it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I trust Riaz.
Yeah. Riaz is on the case, man. Mafiandu Kabengele.
Okay. Yeah. No, I buy it.
Okay.
I'm Fiondu.
We're putting the Hoopball stamp of approval on that one. Santino, any thoughts on the 2 small things we got going on right now?
Yeah, I was looking at both while you guys were talking. The Hawks went from John Collins and nobody backing him up to now they just traded for 3 big men. They said they needed a big man, and they did not lie or disappoint. They got Capella, Dedmon, and now Scal. That's a pretty good front court now. And as far as the Knicks and Clippers trade, it's like I can't just all I can do is shake my head and say, really, Knicks? This is what you're trading Marcus Morris for on a career year as a contender? Like, you can't get anything better than probably a low end first round pick at best. Terrence Mann and Kabengele. I'm probably saying that name wrong, but that's all they can get. It's typical Knicks to me. They just don't. I don't know. They don't know what they're doing. No matter what they do in their front office, as long as Dolan is in charge, it seems like it never works out.
Steve?
Yeah, I mean, both of the rookies that they are speculatively getting played college ball together. They both went to Florida State, so maybe, Florida State boys got to stay together, and that's why they're getting shipped together for Marcus Morris. I don't think that the trade market overall has seemed to be very hot. I thought the Warriors would get more for Alec Burks and Glenn Robinson III. Willie Cauley-Stein only got a second-round pick. D'Angelo Russell only got 1 first-round pick and a $30 million player who has yet to prove that he can win basketball games. So overall, I don't see I don't think that the Knicks would do that terrible of a job by getting 2 young prospects that have shown some form of potential. They're both very young, so it remains to be seen. But if the Knicks are going to build for the future, I don't hate this trade for the Knicks.
No, I mean, you might as well get something, right? There were all these reports about how they wanted to sign a long-term extension with Marcus Morris, which is fine. He's a decent basketball player, but he's not the guy that's going to put you over the hump. You might as well cash in. I totally agree with you. And I know nothing about these young players. I don't feel like I need to know that it's a good idea for a team on a rebuild, and the Knicks are deep into a rebuild at this point, like decades, to try to go get some young players that might pan out and turn into something. You try to catch lightning in a bottle a little bit. Although, as Brew mentioned, and Steve, I'll stay with you because we're trying to pare this thing down. Could this just be the tweet before the tweet where someone else sweeps in with maybe a better prospect?
I mean, if that happens for the Knicks, good on them for being able to drive the price up. It's possible. But even if they do get Terrence Mann and Kabengele, they're both really young. Terrence Mann can handle the ball a little bit. In preseason, he was playing some point guard for the Clippers. And Kabengele has been able to hit some he can spread the floor. He can hit the 3 ball. I don't know. I haven't seen him play as much as Mann. But Mann has even gotten some minutes for the Clippers this season. But if they drive the price up by having Shams tweet this, then all the better on them for driving the price up for a guy that is not going to be part of the future.
Quick recap here on what the day has brought us. Obviously, the big trade of the morning for those joining us a little bit late on this live show. D'Angelo Russell is now a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Andrew Wiggins is now a Golden State Warrior, easily the 2 biggest names to change hands here on trade deadline morning. Omari Spellman and Jacob Evans also going to Minnesota, who it feels like, and I may be counting wrong, have 30 players on their roster at the moment. So we'll see how that whole situation shakes itself out. Warriors are down to basically a starting 5. And a couple bodies on that one as well. By the way, Riaz in the chat made a good point earlier on. Warriors are going to have to add some people to their roster. So before we really know, and we have a pretty good idea of some of the names that are going to get a big bump, but there are going to be some weird things that kind of pop in out of the blue, names we hadn't thought of, G Leaguers, things like that. The Warriors things are going to get weirder before they get less weird out in Golden State. Houston, who traded for Jordan Bell in the Rob Covington deal, has already shipped him off to Memphis for Bruno Caboclo. We just had Skal Labissiere sent to the Hawks from Portland, and then going back to early morning / last night. Obviously, the conclusion of that Miami-Memphis deal. Justice Winslow, Dion Waiters, James Johnson are now Grizzlies. Solomon Hill, Andre Iguodala, Jay Crowder are members of the Miami Heat. There's also the Dwayne Dedmon deal, which I don't think I need to go through all the details right at this moment, and then the details of the Rob Covington deal. One player that's been coming up, and I've been waiting for a little bit of a pause in the sort of the middle of the show. Things obviously are flying fast and furious right now. There's just this tiny bit of downtime now, and a name that's popped up a lot as a result of the Rob Covington, Capella, 10 other guys trade is Malik Beasley. The question I guess I have for all of you guys as we work through this thing is, does he get on the right side of the cut line? Steve, I'm going to work my way just across my screen, and you're on the farthest to one side. Not that anybody else can see what I'm looking at, so sorry. But does Malik Beasley hold enough value in Minnesota? I mean, there's just so many bodies out there right now.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I think if he does, it's so close that you might as well just wait and see how it shakes out. They have a lot of Deangelo's coming in. Josh Okogie had one of his best games of the season last night and played big minutes. Beasley could, but I think there are going to be hotter pickups out there where I would like to play the wait and see approach with Beasley.
Santino, same general idea. I mean, the way I always like to phrase it on Fantasy NBA Today is, if you had a 4-move weekly limit, would you use one on any of those fringy guys that got moved, like a Malik Beasley?
So Beasley specifically, I know I was saying him earlier. I was hesitant to pick him up because I thought the Wolves would try and get Russell, and then they wound up doing it. I still think he's going to see, now that Wiggins is gone, I still think he's going to see about 25 to 30 plus minutes a game. Maybe that's his limit. I don't really think Jacob Evans is going to play much. Josh Okogie's there and Jarrett Culver's there, but one of them will play small forward mostly, and Okogie will probably Jarrett Culver will probably get his minutes all over from point guard to small forward. So I still think that Beasley will get about 25 to 32 minutes a game, and he's going to be worth a roster spot. But I think his upside is 100 on like the dot. I don't think he's more anymore now that D'Angelo Russell's there. Russell's a lot better player than Wiggins, but he does take more shots, and he's just not shy about shooting bad shots. So I see less of what I liked in Beasley before the trade, but he's still a pretty good player who is microwavable hot when he's on. So he is someone who can get you about a steal a game, 2 threes a game, 14 points, a couple rebounds, couple assists. If that's what you're looking for, yeah, then I mean, if you're in a 12-team or deeper league, he would be rosterable.
Who's the player, and this I'm jumping to a new topic here because I feel like, I want to try to steer this in a pretty heavily fantasy direction while we wait on anything else to drop. Who's the player you're most excited about from what we've had occur so far? I mean, for me, it's probably someone like a Marquise Chris or even a DeAnthony Melton, at least in terms of guys that might not have been on a roster as of 40 hours ago.
For me, I like Juancho. There's a couple good names to go around, but I do like Juancho. I think he's going to lock down that power forward position, still get some minutes at small forward. There's really not much competition there in Minnesota now. I mean, they just got Maury Spellman, who I mentioned before isn't really good. He was only fantasy relevant because he was on the Warriors. They have Jared Vanderbilt, but Hernan Gomez is better. He's going to play. There's really not much in the way of minutes for him. And he's proven to before that he's a pretty quality top 70 upside player when he's getting 30 minutes a game. And I think he can easily get to that.
The this battle here just keeps evolving. Ramona Shelburne tweeting out that there is a showdown taking place between the Clippers and the Lakers for Marcus Morris. For the Knicks, apparently they are saying there is no deal without Kyle Kuzma, and the Lakers are reluctant to part. Shams tweeting just about 60 seconds ago that Mo Harkless and other assets is the current package on the table from the Clippers right now. Santino, I'm coming right back to you. If you're the Knicks, which of these packages do you like more? Is it Mo Harkless and presumably someone like a Terrence Mann or name that I will once again butcher because I have to scroll all the way up to make sure I'm getting the pronunciation guide right again? Or would you rather have Kyle Kuzma?
I mean, if it's, as I mentioned before, I knew it couldn't have been just the name that we can't pronounce and Terrence Mann, because that just doesn't seem right. But I mean, if Kyle Kuzma's on the table, I know he's having a down year. I know he's not looking how he was, and his trade value it tanked. But I would rather have him on his $1.5 million contract than Mo Harkless, who you already know you're getting with him, and two other prospects who don't really have much potential. I mean, they have potential, but they're not really highly coveted. I would go with Kuzma, but I don't know if the Lakers are going to do that. I think it makes sense for them if they're going for this year. Marcus Morris feels more than a better role than Kyle Kuzma does on that team. But if I'm the Knicks, I would hold out for Kuzma. I think that's what they're trying to do.
Steve, I'll come over to you with the same thing. It seems like maybe the Clippers are closer right now, not so much because necessarily Harkless plus young guys is the better package, but like Santino said, it seems like maybe it's more because the Lakers are balking at whatever the price might be.
So if it's just Kuzma and then you have the Clippers offering Harkless plus a couple of young prospects, with the way the Knicks roster is right now, I would prefer to have the young prospects with Harkless over Kuzma, but I'm not really that high on Kuzma's overall potential. So that's where I would lean myself.
Let's look at this, Steve, from a fantasy perspective. We've focused on what happens if Marcus Morris lands on the Lakers or the Clippers, and I think we all are in generally a consensus that his value would take a hit in either place. But what about the guys going back to New York? Is there something that could shake out there? Because Marcus Morris is taking a boatload of shots for the Knicks right now. If Kyle Kuzma somehow ended up in New York, if Mo Harkless is the guy that comes back with some young dudes and, you know, looking at some of the players that are already on the Knicks roster, does someone emerge as a potential pickup on the New York side of this? Maybe that's the direction we should have been looking at the front end.
Well, obviously, Kuzma could be rostered in leagues, and he would be the biggest winner if he was sent to New York, more than Harkless, in my opinion, in terms of like standard league value. The Knicks have a lot of different guys, so it's hard for me to predict who would step in and take all of those shots. I guess you could look at Bobby Portis as a late end of bench guy, but he doesn't excite people that much. You got Damian Dotson and Alonzo Trier and just a lot of players there. RJ Barrett might be able to have a second half surge with Marcus Morris gone. But it's hard for me to be able to predict with all of the different bodies that New York has. I would like to see them play a game. But if Kuzma did get traded there, he would be the biggest winner, maybe on the whole trade deadline, fantasy-wise.
Santino, same general idea. Agree, disagree, different names?
Pretty similar. If it's Kyle Kuzma, he's the definite pickup. He's going to start at small forward and get as many minutes as he can handle, and he should. They don't really have many options there. If it's Mo Harkless and Terrence Mann and Kabengele, Mann and Kabengele aren't even in consideration for me. They already have 3-point guards better in RJ Barrett. But Mo Harkless would be teetering on top 150, but he's not really a shooter or shot maker. But if it was the Clippers, the guy I'd be looking at is Kevin Knox. He'd probably get 30-plus minutes a game in that scenario.
God help us all.
I know, and if they were smart at 14 wins, they'd try and get him more minutes. I don't know exactly because it's the Knicks and they choose not to play like Mitchell Robinson, even though he's their future. So I'm not exactly sure, but I would be looking at Kyle Kuzma if they trade with the Lakers, and Kevin Knox if they trade with the Clippers. But the other guys, I don't really see much value in that.
Brew, I've been letting you catch up on all this stuff for a few minutes here, but I'm going to come back to the big dog as we approach the 11 o'clock hour. I know Santino and Steve here have to go shortly, but Aaron, the thoughts on who might go back to the Knicks? I'm looking at some of the games that Marcus Morris missed for his neck injury earlier this year. You saw a lot of Bobby Portis. You saw extra Kevin Knox. You actually saw extra Taj Gibson in a few of those games. Is there a potential pickup on the New York side if this trade with the Clippers goes through?
None of those names really jump out. I mean, Bobby Portis every once in a while gets up over that cut line in standard leagues. I think maybe your guy, Julius Randle.
How dare you?
Maybe be the biggest beneficiary. That one hurts you, Dan.
Yeah.
On a daily basis.
The panic move. I got out from underneath him. I ended up, I traded him away right before he went on that hot run. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Knicks really need somebody to just sort of emerge with a little bit of leadership. That's going to be the big vacuum there. And that's why I mentioned Julius Randle, because if Marcus Morris is gone, then really Julius Randle, it's his team. And I'll say this, Mitchell Robinson, this is a guy that's been really sidelined by Marcus Morris's play. Marcus Morris, big isolation guy, between him and Julius Randle, it is just a bleep show out there. Now, if you start to peel that back and you've got Elfrid Payton that's out there, he's not a big offensive guy. You need Mitchell Robinson in order for him to really, truly, and he hasn't been as bad as people probably feel like he's been, but for him to be the guy that people hoped he would be in the preseason in that sort of top 40 range, he has to get those dunks off of pick and roll and off the lob game. He doesn't get those right now. So he would be the guy I think might be a great buy low right now, because I think people are a little bit sick of what they've been seeing out of him. So I think that's probably the most exciting thing out of this. And then Mo Harkless, if he does come across, maybe he does wiggle his way into that, sort of uniquely Mo Harkless top 150, top 125 range that he typically performs in.
Santino, Steve, I know we're coming up on toward the end of your hour here on the program. Santino, first of all, big fat thank you for the hour on the trade deadline show. Remind everybody once again where they can find you and what you're working on at Hoopball right now.
So you can find me on Twitter at Santino Cacone. It's spelled exactly how it sounds.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's some of us don't know how to spell that. Spell the last name.
Caccone, Cacone.
Yeah, see, I would have guessed something else if I didn't know.
So I guess, yeah. And as far as Hoopball, right now I'm working on the blurbing, and you can find me mostly on Fantasy NBA Tonight's podcast on Wednesdays and Thursdays.
My man. Steve, same question. First of all, big fat thank you. Where can folks find you, and what are you working on?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. You can find me on Twitter. It's at Steven Vidovich, spelled like Stephen Curry, and then the last name Vidovich. And then you can find me doing the blurbs this afternoon. I do Wednesday, Thursdays. I'm going to write Wednesday night pickups of the night. And then I'll be helping out with the Tuesday through Thursday live streams.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of your trade deadline Thursday.
You as well.
Steve and Santino chewing up the 10 to 11 hour here, Pacific time. But fear not. New bodies await. New bodies await. The great Alan Soroki. Alan, good morning to you. Oh. Well, Alan is there, but I don't know that he can hear me yet. And Bogman, my guy, Lord Bogman, at In This League.
Danny,
good morning.
What is going on? Has anything happened? I just woke up.
Well, your Rockets are once again centerless. They had one for a few seconds.
I just what are they doing? Does Mike D'Antoni think that he is the biggest, most super genius in the world? I don't understand. No centers. So it's going to be a fun year. I know that. But like I told you before on the Real Big Three, Dan, I am afraid of Tucker and Harden banging around down there with the monsters the entire season. So there are big men that don't want to play center in the league right now. So how are Harden and Tucker going to handle that nonsense? So I'm not really excited about that.
Well, luckily you guys have Bruno Caboclo to play center now.
yeah, the Brazilian Durant, right? I think I can't remember who it was in my group me room this morning said, yeah, he's a year away from being 2 years away. So it's great.
So you seem excited. Am I reading your facial expressions right?
Yes, yeah, I'm stoked. So, but at least I lost our bet about Deangelo Russell getting traded. So there's that.
Oh, well, we didn't. There was nothing on the line.
Yeah, that's good. So
luckily, I don't like to see people eat gross things. It makes me gag. So I want nothing to do with these. Lord Bogman, of course, at Bogman Sports on Twitter. Tell folks where they can find you and all the amazing things you guys do.
Yeah, at Bogman Sports is my Twitter. At Is It The Welsh for my partner in crime over at In This League. And you can find all of our stuff at patreon.com/ITL Army. So that's where we're covering basketball, football, college football, minor league baseball, pretty much anything that you would want to play fantasy in. So no golf, unfortunately, or NASCAR for us, but and hockey. Other than that, we cover the basics. So.
Yeah, just the basics. That'll work. Alan, you got that mic going now?
I sure do, Dan.
All right. Alan Soroki, ready to go. What's up, man? Good morning.
Good morning to you. How's it hanging, guys?
We're hanging. We got one big one so far today, waiting on the next or any other large trade. Alan, tell people where they can find you before I start bugging you with questions.
So you can find me on Twitter at my name, at Alan Soroki, ALANSROCHI. And I do a lot of writing for Hoopball. Do two pick up of the night articles on Friday night and Sunday night, and I do the box score breakdown podcast on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, outstanding. So, what do you think about the morning so far? What are this stuff? I'm sure you've got a few things that are right at the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, well, so the Deangelo Russell news obviously was pretty huge. I think we all knew that was coming. It was just I'm glad that it finally came to fruition. Like when the Warriors held out Burks and Glenn Robinson last night, it made me a little afraid that something wasn't going to happen there. But it's obviously great news that he's out of that situation in Golden State where there's no shutdown risks and like the little dings won't keep him out for extended periods of times. He's probably going to play the rest of the way. And, he's kind of got that top 60 upside that he can sort of realize there. So I'm pretty excited about that and very interested to see how Andrew Wiggins sort of how he blossoms as the man for the rest of the year.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at okay, so let me ask you a follow-up question on that front. Do you think Steph Curry plays this season?
I kind of hope he does, but I also it's hard to say. Every indication we're seeing is that he plans to play in March, even if it's a lost season. I don't. We've never really seen Curry in this kind of situation before. I know he's a competitor and he wants to get out there for his team, but I'm really on the fence. I'm going to say 60 he does play, 40 he doesn't.
So what does that mean for Wiggins, Mr. Decisive?
If Curry, first of all, if Wiggins is the guy he's going to be the number one option offensively for the rest of the year. I think Brew mentioned earlier in the show when I was listening that he could sort of maybe get himself back into the mid-round player that he was at the beginning of the season. Obviously, it depends on the kind of shots that he's taking. If he's just, if he does a little more spacing the floor than he was.
You're saying put the stickers on the ground?
Yeah, bring out the stickers. It worked before. It's foolproof.
Bogman, what are your thoughts on Golden State?
I don't know, man. I'm afraid of Wiggins turning into a pumpkin. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just afraid of him going back to what we know Wiggins is, and that's just a dude that's going to take too many shots, put you up points, and do nothing else really. So I'm a little afraid of it right now, but I'm hoping that he can take what we saw in the beginning of the season and apply it to Golden State with more of a longer look. They need scoring real bad. So, but me, Danny, I'm on the Curry ain't gonna play. So I can't imagine that they're going to play him with absolutely nothing to gain from it. So, I mean, he wants to play, and I understand that. I just feel like they're going to find a way to not get him out on the court. So, but like due to your suggestion, Dan, I picked up Marquise Chris a couple weeks ago, so I'm loving life right now. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, you're welcome. He's settled in here. They've unloaded every other big man aside from Kevon Looney, who it doesn't look like he's gonna be able to play many minutes. They're monitoring him very closely. Marquise Chris looks like a massive winner here coming out of the trade deadline. Omari Spellman, who played 28 minutes in the Warriors' blowout loss in Brooklyn, got sent out. I mean, Draymond Green at center is obviously an option, but Marquise Chris got 28 minutes and 28 more big man minutes just opened up on that team from their last. I mean, I know that Spellman wasn't logging that many each ball game, but there's just they've cleared out the runway for him. And then on the Wiggins front, like I mean, he could be taking more than 20 shots a ball game the rest of the way. There's a legitimate chance.
Why wouldn't he?
Right? Who else?
Yeah.
Who's shooting? Burks is gone. Robinson's gone.
They're all gone. So
like
Wiggins might take 50 a game.
It's like the last scene in the Fresh Prince when he finds himself alone in the living room, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be like playground basketball where you find the one guy that can make the shot. When you're playing at the Y or whatever. Oh, this guy's really good. I'll just dribble it up if it happens to come my way and throw it to him. Other than that, I'm running 3-point line to 3-point line.
Pretty much. Alan, any other big ones on your mind? Come back over to you. You got us going on Golden State.
Well, I've been following a lot of what the Hawks have been doing, obviously, because of the affiliations over here. Did not the Capella deal was obviously really great, but they keep stockpiling centers. They've got 5 on the roster right now, and I feel like there's probably another move that they're going to be making at some point before we hit the 3:00 deadline here. I'm interested in just there's not a whole lot of fantasy implications in that one, but there's probably more moves to be made. In terms of and then there's obviously the Knicks deal that's going to happen between either the Clippers or the Lakers, which also at this moment it doesn't seem like there's going to be many fantasy guys that'd be interesting that could pop up from that one, aside from maybe Mo Harkless if he goes to New York, because I don't know, there's a chance that maybe he gets into like a mid 25 to upper 20-minute role, which could help him see those defensive stats and 3-pointers, rebounds, all that good stuff that he usually does come up. It's we're just kind of waiting with bated breath here right now. I don't really know if there's been any huge fantasy winners aside from Marquise Chris, like you mentioned earlier. And I'm pretty high on DeAnthony Melton and what's going on with Memphis and all the people that they've cleared out recently. I think that assuming Winslow doesn't play, or at least is slow to play, I think that he's got a really nice window here to see that upper 20-minute value.
By the way, Caron Butler just tweeted a tough juice bomb. He put this in the tweet, tough juice bomb, Marcus Morris to the Clippers, and then a bunch of eyeball emojis. So if you believe that Caron Butler has the scoop, which you might, then he's saying that the Caron Butler deal is done. We're not going to break it down until we get actually Shams now tweeting that the deal is being finalized. Knicks are finalizing a deal.
I wonder who his source is.
Was it Tough Juice?
I think the source is Apatria.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. That's
Somebody
right.
Call up Apatria and get the story.
That's right. He met Caron Butler at the bar. We should have hit him up. So Tough Juice might have had this one, man. Shams. It says the Mo Harkless and other assets side still working on exact additional players and picks. So it's still not completely done, but obviously we will remain glued to everything. Here's my question, Bogman. I'll come to you first on this one. You know what team we've been talking about for weeks and we have not heard anything from on trade deadline day is the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, I mean, all we've heard is rumors, right? Like everyone is offering something for Christian Wood because Andre Drummond, like you astutely said a couple weeks ago, is not getting dealt. It seems that the asking price is just too high, and it's a pride thing at this point. They're like, nah, we'd rather go down with this ship than give him up for a couple second-round picks or whatever the offers have been, I guess. So Christian Wood has gotten offers, but it seems like they're asking too much for Christian Wood as well. I know the Rockets kicked the tires there, and Boston did too. So, Derrick Rose isn't getting moved. It probably wasn't a great time for him to start taking games off right around the trade deadline. So I don't know if we're going to see anything. The clock is ticking rapidly here. So hopefully we see something happen.
Alan, same general question. Is anything going to happen in Detroit?
I'm on the side of nothing really going down here. I think the Andre Drummond chances are way dead. I don't think that the asking price has always been too high for him, especially when you're looking at some of the other, like Clint Capella, for example, the rate that he went for. Detroit didn't have a realistic price there. And Derrick Rose is another guy that I've been monitoring as someone who could potentially get shipped out. I know there's a lot of contenders that would be interested in bringing him on for the long haul, but I think I was reading that Detroit was looking for a lottery first-round pick for him, which is insane. They're not going to get that. I don't think that there's any deal to be had from Detroit. I think that they're kind of stuck right now.
Not even Derrick Rose?
I don't think it's going to happen, no.
Yeah, I've been, Bogman, on Real Big 3, I've been putting my foot down for weeks that I didn't think Detroit was going to be doing things because I thought they were just going to be like, no, we're not going to sell for the price you guys are offering. We're not going to get fleeced, even if it costs us all of our guys at the end of the year. And we are.
Yeah, I mean, what is Detroit going to do? Get the 8 seed?
Probably not even that.
Yeah, I guess they're just gonna hold on, maybe try to extend Drummond or something. I'm not real sure. So it's strange. I know that the asking price is probably a little bit too high, but if you're a contending team and you need a big man, I feel like you need to go out and do that. Like this is something I would love to see the Rockets do, but apparently they just want to play 6'6" guys at center. So not going to happen. I know they kicked the tires on Wood. At least he's athletic. It seemed like Jordan Bell was going to fit perfectly, and then they flipped him. So I don't know, man. It's strange deals happening right now. I just can't believe that the Knicks are going to get Mo Harkless back for Marcus Morris on his career year. Like it's the most Knicksy trade I've ever heard in my entire life.
I wonder if he gets bought out or if they play him. I don't know.
Yeah, I who knows? He would probably get bought out. You would hope so. Or I know that the Knicks love to stockpile forwards, but
yeah, he's almost not big enough for their stockpile. He's tall enough. He's just not quite.
He's
thick
a
enough.
Knicks point guard. That's right.
Yeah, he is their point guard. By the way, Tough Juice is tweeting that Jerome Robinson is going to be going to the Washington Wizards. So let's keep an eye on see if that ends up being right as well. He did have Marcus Morris about 20 seconds before Shams did. Brew, I'm pivoting over to you. You've had your nice long respite here. You're feeling spry, I'm sure. Let's say that this Marcus Morris thing is truly done, because it sounds like it's basically there, 1 yard line type of stuff. We talked about what might be the case in New York. What do you think they do with Mo Harkless? We said guys like Bobby Portis, Kevin Knox, their fantasy games just really don't translate all that well. What about more on a points league side? Because that's always been the issue with guys like that is they don't do much besides score and rebound. Does that make any difference for you?
No, not really. I mean, so your points league guys are your Julius Randles and your Bobby Portises. And so, I mean, yeah, to that extent, Bobby Portis gets a bump. Kevin Knox gets a bump. But do they even like Kevin Knox anymore? I mean, you've got the new regime, like Scott Perry's now calling the shots temporarily until Leon Rose is sworn in. So, I mean, that usually will wipe out a lot of, old draft picks that have been getting sort of forced into the action like Kevin Knox has been. Ntilikina, does he get moved? That's somebody that I wouldn't be shocked if he got moved. But are they going to really try to force him into the action? Probably not. It's probably going to be somebody just strange that emerges like Dotson or Trier or Bullock is the guy that, I've been watching to see if he can actually be good. It hasn't happened yet. I mean, that's asking a lot for him coming off that kind of an injury. So yeah, no, I mean, Harkless isn't a points league guy. Peyton might be in a points league their best player. Who knows? But Julius Randle, he's going to take on the bulk of the load. Yeah, that's a really ugly fantasy roster. Why'd you ask me about that one?
Yeah, well, that's what's happening right now. That's what the deadline has brought us here at 11:15. People are making up trades in our chat room now. That's starting to turn into a very fun scenario. Bogman, listen. Sometimes I get accused of not talking about points leagues at all. So these category guys, they're not really going to cut it. But anybody on the Knicks make your roster if percentages are not in your league?
Don't ask me about the Knicks, man. I was the Mitchell Robinson preseason hype guy, and that did not turn out very well. So,
whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Everybody seeing what I'm seeing?
Yep.
11 seconds ago, the Cleveland Cavaliers are finalizing a trade for Andre Drummond. What?
Okay. As soon as we said it's not going to happen,
then it happens. The Cavaliers?
Why?
I did not see that one coming.
I don't understand. Like, this is the year where the bad teams trade for the good players. Is that what's happening? D'Lo to the Wolves and now Drummond to the Cavs. Why?
Well,
are we sure this is real?
Yeah. Check mark Woj has the
bomb.
Yeah, with the check mark, not a fake account. Okay, well, we don't have
what could
any
possibly be going back here?
I haven't a clue. But immediately Christian Wood jumps as a monster among monsters, right?
All right. Yeah.
But we don't know anything else that's going on. I mean, it's not just going to be picks, right? They're going to have to send somebody young back to Detroit.
Got to send some money back,
one would think. And then does Cleveland think that they're going to be able to re-sign him long term? Anybody that's trading for Drummond, I mean, he's going to opt out and be a free agent. What of my poor man Larry Nance Jr.? Maybe he's on the move, actually. We are waiting additional details. This is a very difficult trade to break down when the only thing we know is that Andre Drummond is headed to Cleveland. Alan, what are you thinking? And does anybody on this show right now understand how the contract element of this works? Because I am grossly, I'm way out of my depth with this one.
Oh man, this is like the first trade that we've seen that hasn't been reported anywhere. Like every other deal that we've at least seen some rumors of, but this is Kevin Love going back in this deal? Like, are they just swapping unhappy big men here? I have no idea how this one's going to work. Because I feel like both Cleveland and Detroit, their best assets were their bigs. So I don't know who it's gonna be. There's no information to work with.
Oh,
here.
If this Kevin O'Connor tweet is right, this is okay. Brandon Knight, John Henson, and a second-round pick.
What?
That's it?
That can't be right.
No way.
It just can't be right, right? I'm more on the why wouldn't they trade trash for trash and get Kevin Love off the team? That's the best offer they got for Drummond. Wasn't Atlanta offering ones a couple weeks ago?
Ugh. Oh, I'm disgusted by this. If that's true, then Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love are both still Cavaliers as well.
Oh my God.
And Larry
What
Nance.
is happening? They got to have a deal done for Tristan Thompson to go somewhere else then, right?
Well,
You would think.
This is pretty weird, man. This is pretty weird. All right, well, let's break it down. Let's assume this is accurate and go with it. Obviously, I'm intensely disappointed because if this is right, then all of my Larry Nances I've been stockpiling are basically cooked for the time being.
Oh my God.
Yeah, done. This is the Pistons picked up two guys that I can't guarantee are going to play, but I mean, anybody that knows me knows that the first year and a half of Fantasy NBA Today, I spent picking up and dropping John Henson every other week. They can't. Could the Pistons possibly play John Henson? I would think the answer is actually possibly because they're playing Thon
why
Maker.
not, right? why wouldn't they? That it makes sense. It doesn't matter really where John Henson goes. He gets 10 minutes and 3 blocks a game. So that's it's exactly what we want from John Henson. So I could see him playing for Detroit, but I think your initial thought of this making Christian Wood just basically a superstar, all the per 36 that our guy Jonas has been talking about forever might actually come true now. So
he might play more than 36 at this point.
It's the entire front court now. So
I cannot believe that's what came back to the Pistons for this. They didn't even get a young player in the deal. Second?
I don't have anything to help with here. I don't know what to say, Dan. This is nuts.
Alan?
I mean, the only thing that's for sure certain is that Christian Wood is a big winner here. John Henson's not going to steal his minutes. There's got to be another shoe to drop in Cleveland, right? Like Scott just mentioned, that Tristan Thompson there must be a deal in place for him. Maybe even a Kevin Love deal. I mean, it's been dead quiet on the Love trade front ever since the rumors started popping up about them shopping him. But yeah, the only real takeaway here is that Wood is a 100% winner.
This is wild, man. This is absolutely wild. Everybody on the internet is reacting the same way. They just traded Andre Drummond for a bag of chips. I paid more for my Whataburger. My feed is just filled with fast food references that paid more for, or that cost
That's
more.
what I bring to the show, Dan, when I show up.
Apparently.
It's fast food references. So
I mean, this is absolutely wild. Brew, I gotta bring you in on this one. I know I'm sure you're racking your brain over there trying to make sure that stuff is going out on Hoop Ball. But if this is really the end of it for right now, Drummond for Henson and Brandon Knight, please explain any of this to me, because I am beyond confused.
Detroit didn't have anything for leverage here. And they don't want him. He doesn't want them. Like Cat, he's been playing like a guy that just doesn't care. I mean, he's bringing the ball up on the break like he's a point guard, flinging it into the fifth row, putting up great numbers as usual. But, Pistons don't even want him to opt in. So that's why this ROI on this deal is so bad. And everything you guys are saying about Christian Wood is completely true. I have him on almost every team, and he's been there for about 2 months. So I'm a crow a little bit about that. But going back to Cleveland, I think this is an indicator that Tristan Thompson's gone.
Right?
You can't have both those guys on the floor at the same time in any capacity whatsoever. So that tells me Tristan Thompson's gone, and where he lands is just a really random question. I don't know where he lands. I don't even know where he would be a good fit.
Maybe they rethink whatever the Rockets were offering now, since he's he's 99% expendable.
I mean, yeah, like that is a very interesting shoe that could drop. But then, so Kevin Love, I mean, he probably is helped by this to a certain degree. He doesn't have to play as much center. I don't know that they care about winning, so trotting him out there as a spacer, even though laterally they'll just get killed by any team that's out there. Love has always been an asset that you just probably don't want him in playoff leagues at all, because he could easily just call it an early year. In roto leagues, he was so cheap on draft day. You're just trying to get that value out of him as early in the season as you can. You just hope that he can hang on as long as he can, which is what he's done so far. He's been a positive value for owners. But yeah, no, I think from that perspective, and most of our readers probably have more of Kevin Love than they do of Andre Drummond. So I guess to the extent that this keeps them somewhat competitive and looking at how would these guys mesh in future years, which the answer is not good, but I mean, it gives them the balance of this year to try things out. What a weird mix, though.
So weird.
I mean, you can't get rid of Kevin Love. People talk about, oh, you should go get Kevin Love. Like, are you crazy? Like, he's already a below average player in the NBA.
But at least he has a terrible attitude.
And a really big contract. I love you, Boggs.
Well, I'm going to ask you guys the question that you're all going to laugh at me about. Can John Henson actually put up fantasy value in Detroit? Because they're willing to play anybody at center on that team. Dude, the Cavs just played him 30 minutes in their last game.
That was weird, okay? I mean, like,
it was weird.
If I was his agent, I'd be upset. Like that's bound to get him hurt.
That's the John Henson showcase right there.
It worked.
30 minutes.
Why didn't we see this coming? They were just like, they're rolling him out there 30 minutes to go get Andre Drummond. I want to play the Dumb and Dumber. I didn't even see it coming. Drop right now. It's like, oh, that's why they played John Henson 30 minutes on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever the hell that was. This is blowing my mind, guys.
Everyone is kind of speechless here because none of it makes any damn sense.
Did we get something else,
all.
Brew? Did something else?
No, I was just making random noises to try to butt in. Thon Maker? Question mark. I mean, that's that. I mean, he's bad.
Oh, what the heck is going on right now? The ramp up is upon us. Minnesota has joined the Miami-Memphis deal and will trade Gorgie Jang to Memphis for James Johnson, I believe is what's happening now.
Oh, my God. So, if you happen to have Spellman on your roster, like I have, I took a chance on Spellman. You can laugh at me. Come on, keep laughing. Does he slide in as the backup 5?
I need to write all this down. I've lost track at this point. Drummond to the Cavs for John Henson and Brandon Knight, question mark.
And Spellman and Cat are on the same meal plan, so maybe it's an interchangeable player kind of a situation.
Yeah, good luck getting the center minutes behind. So Omari Spellman just took Gorgie Jang's job in Minnesota.
Yeah, but you wonder, can he also place him at the 4? He needs about 24 minutes a game to be standard league relevant. And he needs to be good. That's the other thing. So he's been disappearing. And he had something like 30 minutes last night and had like 1 point, I think, to his stat line. Like he's been down. And what was weird about his emergence in Golden State, Anthony Slater of The Athletic, who's really dialed in, had both him and Bowman as really key pieces of that Warriors team going forward. So somebody told him that. And with Bowman, he sort of had to deal with the G League and the roster math there. And with Spellman, he just disappeared right after Slater said that. And he had been playing pretty good there. You kind of wonder maybe he found out he was getting traded or something was happening in the rumor mill. And his backstory is just an odd thing in general. He's got some weird things out there in the press with his family and such. But like the idea that he could still be good, I think, is in play in Minnesota for deeper leagues. 200 player formats where somebody with that kind of math, 24 minutes per game, giving you top 150 value. I think he should be on the radar now that Jang's being traded. But also, why are they doing that in Memphis?
Yeah, this is absolutely crazy.
Like, why? They have Jordan
Bell.
Bell.
We love the trade deadline because all this crazy stuff happens right at the end.
This
Teams
is
start getting desperate.
You guys remember the trade deadline where nothing happened until the end, and then it continued for the next hour? And
that
third of the league.
Was that the first year you were running this?
Yeah. Well, maybe.
That's why I keep it going till 1:00 every year, and then last year was
but a third of the league went after nobody went.
Mm-hmm.
And the deadline hit, and I mean, so this kind of stuff, it definitely happens. But Memphis, why?
Yeah, I don't know. They've got JV, Jordan Bell, Gorgie Jang, all just.
Is that a big middle finger to Brandon Clark?
No, because they've been playing him a little bit at power forward lately.
Okay.
He and JV together. I don't know that these guys they're picking up are going to play very much in Memphis. I can't believe it. They feel more like injury replacements, and they just didn't want James Johnson at all.
Minnesota just really needed a black belt.
Apparently, keep everybody in check. This is, I mean, things have obviously picked up. By the way, the Marcus Morris trade to the Clippers appears to be done. Shams tweeting that there is an agreement in principle on that one, so it's no longer hot pursuit or extremely close or whatever the different movies were. Bogman, I know you got to go, man. Before you do, remind everybody where you're at. Tell people about In This League, and then we'll bid you a fond farewell, just in time for things to get insane.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. I think this is the third year in a row I've done this. Thank you, Brewski. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everyone at Hoopball. You can follow me on the Twitter at Bogman Sports, at Is It The Welsh for my partner in crime over there, and find everything we do. You can just type into your podcast app In This League, and all of our shows should come up, or go to patreon.com/ITL Army for all of our stuff. Appreciate it, boys.
Thank you, Lord. So, quickly here, about to introduce a couple new faces. Alan, you're sticking around, right?
Yep, I'm here till the deadline.
All right, we got Alan till noon. We got Brandon, we got Corbin checking on here. I want to welcome these guys in before I reset the table. Brandon, good morning, sir. Things picking up just in time, and your Clippers just picked up Marcus Morris, it sounds like.
Yeah, what's up, man? Wow. I don't know how I feel right now because it's the team that's actually doing things to win right now. And I'm kind of confused what this whole winning now thing is in Clipperland. And I love it. I absolutely love it. Apparently, this Lou Williams, Isaiah Thomas backcourt might be a thing at some point.
Uh-oh.
With the Jerome Robinson deal, that maybe Isaiah Thomas is on the move. And
are you following Tough Juice hard right now?
Oh, God. Karan Butler, breaking news left and right.
Brandon, tell everybody where they can find you.
At BD Marcus.
Well, that was easy, wasn't it?
Yeah, very simple.
Corbin. Sorry. Go ahead. I cut you off.
No, go ahead. It's been fun. I was hoping that some things would actually happen, considering the first, 2.5 days were kind of dull. So it's nice to see actually things happening.
Yeah. By the way, thank you, Brandon, for answering some questions in the forum or in the YouTube chat while we were getting this going. Basically impossible for me to see what's going on over there. Corbin, good morning to you, Mr. Corbin Ford.
Good morning. How are you?
We are hanging in. Ooh, that deep resonance there.
I know.
You had your webcam off, and I briefly got to see a don't. No. It's on now. I just meant I briefly got to see a picture of Terry Rozier. That is, that's your avatar right now. Am I right?
That's my spirit basketball player. It was Russell Westbrook. So yeah.
Yeah, you were on Twitter. You were Russell Westbrook apologist. Is that still what it is?
It is. It is because he had a great stretch of games, and there's been some backlash recently about his All-Star selection. So I thought his name had to make a comeback.
Yeah, well, you were Terry Rozier apologist before that, but that's the nickname. What is your Twitter handle? Where can people find you?
Oh, Corbin NBA. Pretty basic. Just the ramblings of an NBA Lakers fan waiting for some moves.
You always have at least 2 Lakers fans on all of our shows. That's the Dan Besbris quota. I make sure that that's the case. So quickly here, a reset. I know we've got a lot of folks tuning in after this wild flurry of moves coming in over the last few minutes. Obviously, the Andre Drummond one knocked me off of my chair. But before we dive back into that, Brandon, Alan, Corbin, I'm going to get all of your thoughts on these most recent moves. Quickly, you guys are watching the Hoop Ball 2020 NBA trade deadline live show. I'm going to get this right this time. It's like try number 6, but I'm going to point the right way. There we go. The trade deadline live show is on that side of my face on this encoder stream. Please do, guys, if you're just started watching, if you haven't done it already, please click that thumbs up button under the YouTube picture. It helps us. It'll move up different lists. People will be able to find the show after it's over. Maybe folks that didn't get to catch it live. Just a way for Hoopball to continue to grow our YouTube following. You know, if people watch it later, it's a way for folks to find some of the pros we've had on. Just helps us in sort of this snowball fashion. And then obviously subscribe. That's underneath the video. I think that's somewhere like in this territory if I'm pointing to the right spot. Hit that subscribe button. We have all of our podcasts, all 6 team shows, all 5 basketball shows, 4 of them fantasy and gambling, 1 of them NBA traditional. They all end up here on our YouTube page when they get released on their individual podcast channels as well. And my Twitter handle right here, at Dan Besbris, Hoopballs, at Hoopball Fantasy. Please follow all of those things. Again, I threw it out earlier in the show. I'll do it again. If you'd like to be involved with us here at Hoopball, We are always recruiting. If you'd like to be a contributor, send an email to teamhoopball@hoop-ball.com and check out all of our amazing work from the pros we've had on the show. Brandon, I'll loop back to you on this one. And I know that the Drummond deal is probably the bigger one to talk about right now. But your Clippers did make a win-now move and picked up Marcus Morris. From a reality standpoint, I imagine you have to be pretty happy with this. From a fantasy standpoint, this feels like kind of a bad thing for Marcus. But what are your feelings on both sides of that as our resident Clipper guy?
For Marcus Morris, his fantasy value definitely goes down. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He was the guy in New York, and now he is not the guy. I mean, he's behind Kawhi. He's behind PG. At times, he's going to be behind Lou. He's going to be behind Trez. So this is a deal that the Clippers are making to win now. It's as simple as that. You're giving up an expiring Harkless. You're giving up the only first-round pick that you probably have for the rest of my lifetime. And then you're also giving up a couple of guys that are, sure, they're young pieces. But the thing is with them, a guy like Cavangeli is that he has potential. I mean, he can shoot the three. He can block shots. He's had games where he's gotten 25 points, 16 rebounds. Like, he is a monster. So you're giving up some prospect.
By the way, thank you for being the one guy who could come on and just pronounce the name without reading a pronunciation guide.
Yeah, you're welcome. I've heard it time and time again. Terrence Mann is a guy that lit up the preseason, and everyone wanted him to get minutes, and then he did get minutes, and he was fine, not great. It was weird because Derek Walton actually was better than he was. Now both guys apparently are gone. So either way, I mean, it's a win-now move. If you have Morris, this sucks for his value. Who's going to take up his spot in the Knicks? You guys have talked about this entire show I've been watching. We really don't know. When Morris was out, it did seem like Portis did get some minutes. So, yeah, for the Clippers, this is just a real-life, like, actual good move to win now. It does hurt them down the line, but it's a win move now. I mean, it's a win-now move.
We had a very small trade come through that I would have cut in if I thought this was going to have a severe impact on anybody's fantasy rosters, but it might be the start of something happening for the Washington Wizards, who just sent Jordan McRae to the Nuggets. Hot shooting or volume shooting Jordan McRae is now a Denver Nugget. And Shabazz Napier, who the Nuggets just got in the trade with Houston and Minnesota yesterday, is now a Washington Wizard. So the Wizards did just pick up another point guard. Brandon, just a moment ago, you mentioned possibly Isaiah Thomas being on the move. Does this make you think that Shabazz Napier is going to move into any minutes in Washington, or are we just getting too far ahead of ourselves?
No, it's possible. It's absolutely possible, but it's still not a move that I'm making right now because we don't know exactly what's going to happen.
Did you make any moves so far today, by the way?
Yeah, I had 3 moves left in my big league, and Bridges was sitting there, and I said, you know what? It doesn't seem like enough big names are coming over, so I added Bridges. In my other league, somehow Wood was available in my ESPN league. Yeah, and the thing with ESPN is you only allow 4 centers, which is why he was available, is that you couldn't just add him, except I did find out you can add him, even though it says power forward center. You don't need to drop a center to add him. So people that are in ESPN leagues, go ahead and add Wood if he's available.
Corbin, really on the reality side, I know the fantasy for you is a work in progress at the moment. So you're our reality basketball takes. What do you think about the Marcus Morris deal? Let's start with that one.
I mean, it automatically just supplements additional scoring as a guy who was a main man in New York for the Clippers. So as if they needed more of a guy, but they do have someone where they can play through for those moments when Kawhi and Paul George are on the bench, someone that can kind of be the offensive hub for minutes at a time, another strong off-ball shooter, another guy who can give the ball to, maybe get some sort of offensive flow where it's not a whole bunch of ISO basketball. But if you want to do that, Marcus Morris has been doing that pretty well for New York this year. So yet another offensive weapon, another big body, kind of help with some rebounding. Is just another solid piece. I mean, it was the one guy that, the Clippers, I guess they wanted to have with their evolving kind of stable of starting level forwards. And so now you have one who offensively is an upgrade over Harkless, and definitely is a way better shooter and has more of the ability to space the floor for the Clippers, either, coming off the bench or in moments starting for Kawhi.
There was a tweet that Shams sent out that has subsequently been deleted related to James Ennis being traded to the Magic, but it's not up anymore. So I don't know if that means Shams got ahead of himself or if maybe there was a misspelling I didn't see. but that tweet is now down, so I'm not going to report it as done until it pops back up on the list. Corbin, the trade that everybody watching this thing saw blow me right out of my chair was Drummond to the Cavaliers. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I get it. Like, Drummond as an NBA player is sort of a weird, non-modern style, but if you can get someone that good for John Henson, Brandon Knight in a second, I mean, to that end, I kind of understand it. What does this do for Cleveland on the reality side?
I'm as lost as like anyone else on the shuffle on that one, to be honest. Like, I don't get that. I hope he doesn't expect to be getting the ball from Colin Sexton too much, but just in general, I think it's more of an opportunity cost, like you said, for the Cavs. We're okay if we can get him for that cheap. Let's do it. In 3 months, if it doesn't work, then no harm, no foul. We can just let him go, no issue. As far as the basketball fit side, I mean, one, I guess we've already been mentioned on the show, but obviously there has to be some move for Tristan Thompson at the very least. Maybe Kevin Love, possibly, I don't know, but one of those guys has to go, you would think. He slots in at that, obviously, starting center spot, and then I guess from there you just try him out. I don't really understand the fit offensively there with Cleveland, but then again, Cleveland's been kind of weird for me this year in general as far as like who they're playing through, the young guards, all of that. So I think it's just a chance for them to have a player, who has some name cachet in Drummond, definitely monster rebounder, and try him out and see what happens. And then if not, let him go. It's going to be interesting to see how the fit is watching them play and whether they decide to, use him like a traditional center, dump it down, which we already know isn't really a great thing. Is he going to be a pick and roll guy? He's been kind of hesitant on that, really. I don't know. It's really weird.
The one of our own Surio in the chat room is saying that he saw a rumor of the Gallo trade being back on the table. So we'll keep an eye out for anything that comes across on that side. Right now, the rumor he saw, again, unconfirmed to this point, was Tyler Hero and Kelly Olynyk as the other side. So we'll very much keep a close eye on that. The other thing, Brandon, I'll pivot back to you on this one. You've been talking about Derrick Rose being on the move. Things got real quiet in Detroit for a long time, and then all of a sudden Drummond's gone. This makes me think that more guys are headed out. I think I'm joining you on the Derrick Rose is probably out of Detroit. Now that Drummond's gone, it seems like it's time to sort of blow the whole thing up.
But is that actually going to happen?
I don't know. I don't know.
Since when do things that we think make sense actually happen? I mean, right now you have Tristan Thompson, Larry Nance, and Andre Drummond together. They'll form the biggest front court we'll see in NBA history.
Yeah, Larry Nance is their shooting guard right now.
I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Some of these teams, I don't understand. It's 11:43 people. You have 17 minutes left to make a move. Derrick Rose said he wants to stay, and I do believe that, actually. And if he does stay, then sure, his value stays the same. But the question is with these teams, what are they doing? And if Derrick Rose is going to be traded, here's the real question. Does Derrick Rose get traded for maybe Jerome Robinson? Because if that's the package they're willing to get for Andre Drummond, I'm not sure what they want for Derrick Rose. So that's the one thing to watch out for. Is I'm a little concerned with what Detroit is getting back in these deals.
Alan, you've been relegated to silence for a little bit here while I wanted to make sure everybody got welcomed in. I'm sure you've got a few thoughts banging around in your head on the Marcus Morris deal, the small deal perhaps with Washington. Just a little bit more stuff on the Drummond deal, by the way, that is these Cavs, the Cavs 2023 second round pick. So whatever the heck all that means. What are you getting over there? Are you seeing anything across your wire?
Well, first, they couldn't even get a good second round pick for that. They completely just dumped him into the trash can. That is such a bad trade. The Shabazz Napier deal is kind of interesting, just because I think that there's a realistic scenario that he could get into a nice 20, 25-minute role on that team. Washington plays fast. They play to Shabazz Napier's strengths. He could pile up some assists over there. So I think it's not going to be exactly what he was doing in Minnesota for the last 2 weeks, but there's a chance that he could get himself into sort of the back end of standard league territory if he does play a lot of minutes. And of course, Isaiah Thomas probably needs to be moved out in front of him, but he hasn't been playing very well for a while now. I think Napier's a better player at this point. So that one's kind of interesting to me. And The James Johnson, Omari Spellman, Juancho Hernan Gomez thing going on in Minnesota is pretty interesting too. One of those three guys is going to emerge as the main power forward or absorb most of the power forward minutes, you have to think, going forward. I'm not sure which one. My guess would be probably Hernan Gomez and James Johnson probably get the first crack there, while Amari Spellman does more backup center stuff. But yeah, I'm not sure if there's an ad that I'm running to go out and make there from all the ones that we're seeing come up so far.
We by the way, I want to give a quick plug. We actually have a running trade tracker over at Hoopball. If you guys want to see basically everything that's been going on, that's what Aaron is banging along. If you see him typing furiously away in the background here, that's what Brew is working on with the rest of our amazing editors over at Hoopball HQ. I'm going to post that link in the chat room here for the YouTube. So check that out. You can have that open alongside this podcast. And that way, if you're trying to figure out basically what's been going on, all the different things that we're talking about, that's a great place to do it. It's sort of it's not necessarily something that's going to run in conjunction with us, but it's going to have a log of everything that we've been talking about throughout the show. So that link is now in the chat room. You can also get it by going to hoop-ball.com/articles. Brew, actually, do you have a faster way to get there? I might be screwing this up. I know you're working on that running tracker. What's the easiest way for folks to find it?
You mean the URL? No. Just go to the homepage. It's right there at the top, first article on the left, I believe. And just click right in. URL's article/team/2020 trade deadline tracker.
Yeah, I was about to say that, and I thought, nope, I'm going to ask.
Yeah, we could have been smart and done something better than that, but, we didn't.
So check that out. It's great. It's got everything that's been going on, and that way, while we're bouncing around from topic to topic on here, you guys can have one stable place with a log of all of the things that have been going on. Mostly rumors swirling at this exact moment. We are now 13 minutes to the trade deadline. Brian Windhorst on the jump, speculating that the Lakers might now be going harder after Derrick Rose, after not getting... apparently they were trying to get Andre Drummond, which I hadn't heard that, but I thought they were in on Marcus Morris. Another rumor from Keith Smith, one of the teams heavily engaged, is still the Celtics. They have all of these guys that they always refuse to part with every year. It's the same story for Boston. Will this be the time they finally do something? We shall see. But at this exact moment, nothing new over the last couple of minutes. Brew, I'm going to let you slide back into the wild updating of our page over there. We got a lot of bodies on this thing right now. Brandon, I haven't bugged you about the Andre Drummond thing yet. We talked about Clippers. Like beyond Christian Wood, is there anything you're doing with Detroit? Is there anything you're doing with Cleveland? I mean, I don't think that I would caution people not to make any preemptive drops right now. Might be my best advice.
Yep, exactly. Spot on. Wood is the only guy right now. And there's a lot of questions right now in the chat about certain pickups. This is actually a very quiet deadline in terms of fantasy. I mean, Wood is probably the number one guy right now. Number two is probably Chris. Melton probably number three. Outside of those three guys, there's not a lot. So if you're thinking about adding or dropping, wait, because there is news that always comes out in the next 12 minutes plus, because we'll get something afternoon. No need to add or drop quite yet. Wait, have some patience. I know it's hard. You and I talked about it, Dan, on Monday and on Wednesday. Have patience. I mean, this is not easy to do, I understand, but there has not been a lot of news. And on the Detroit side, I mean, yeah, Wood. And is there anything else you trust? You trust maybe Sekou? I mean, that's possible that he gets more minutes. And then Cleveland, wait, because Thompson, it seems like, might get bought out. Nance, who knows where he goes. It's a wait and see.
We're hearing the Wizards, by the way, are asking for, let me see if I'm getting this right, all the things for Davis Bertans. I don't know if they're going to receive all the things, but we'll see how that goes. I believe Boston has been linked to Washington in the Davis Bertans thing. Following up on the chat here with Brandon, I think I would caution people not to do anything with Larry Nance right now. That's the guy that looks like he's in real trouble as things currently sit. But there are most likely more shoes to drop. there has to be something because Cleveland right now is completely overloaded in their front court. Corbin, I'm going to jump back with you. All the stuff that happened earlier today, from a reality standpoint, what do you like? What do you dislike?
I mean, for me, I'm still early on caught on with the Miami Grizzlies kind of, I guess, Minnesota move. That was, I don't know, I guess the Andre Iguodala extension kind of got me, but also getting for Memphis a player in Justice Winslow, obviously injured, but who knows how he'll kind of factor in later on being healthy when he's healthy, especially with the Grizzlies right now currently the 8th and pretty safe at the moment on that. Aside from that, it's really just been like these kind of moves on the margins. I haven't looked on the big major moves kind of coming here and there as far as contenders, aside from Marcus Morris to the Clippers, which has been something that we've been talking about for, it seems like, since the beginning of the year, as far as him going to the Clippers or the Lakers. So those are the ones for me. I think one that's, I don't know if it has any major impact. In fact, no, it doesn't. But I'm intrigued by, at least for this year, the Wiggins D'Angelo Russell swap and just how weird that was, I guess. Basketball-wise, I'm intrigued by the fit there. Obviously, both those teams are going nowhere fast as far as this year. So, again, that's something more forward-thinking. How does Wiggins fit in with the return of, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, healthy guys there, and then D'Angelo Russell and Karl-Anthony Towns, that immediate fit right now, even if, for all intents and purposes, I think they're pretty safely out the playoffs for this year. But how that cohesion works together. And the Minnesota Timberwolves finally getting a point guard after, a stressful 2-3 days. But I've really been looking at moves that could be made. Like you said, what Boston could do. Are the Lakers going to do anything? And please not Derrick Rose. Moves like that by contenders that could actually kind of augment their bench and supplement them as they kind of go into the postseason or put their eyes to that, for that matter.
The Marcus Morris deal is now official. He has been informed that he is a Clipper, according to Shams, who really, listen, I'm always going to give all the love in the world to Shams and Woj for all this stuff, but they are milking this Marcus Morris deal. This is like 4 different updates that have all been inching towards being done, and the latest update is now Morris has been told. Yeah, I reckon he's probably on Twitter also. We are 8 minutes from the deadline. Currently, I'm watching Washington. It seems like there's probably something else to come there. We're watching Cleveland, Detroit. Corbin, I'm sticking with you because I know you got a soft spot for this team. I'm a little surprised we haven't heard anything out of Charlotte so far.
I am too. I heard there was buzz around Julius Randle, which would have been interesting as far as like what piece would have come, or what piece would have gone to New York for that. They've been a pretty feisty team this year. They're kind of, you could say, if you're really on the optimistic side, just outside the bubble for a playoff spot, possibly in the East, at least, for the 8th. And you're right, they have pieces that you could either offload expiring contracts, get guys who could, or they could be a buyer in as far as saying, okay, we'll help facilitate a move for some extra picks down the line. The fact that they've done nothing's intriguing, especially when I heard that there was players like, I mentioned it, Terry Rozier, who was sneakily like, available. Not really sure how that would have fit, but as far as even being available to facilitate moves, that's interesting. Much less, having guys like a Marvin Williams who you think would be in demand for some team. Nick Batum is there. He's another guy out there. Big money that you could kind of put yourself in play to be a part of these 3-team trades or help things happen. So I am shocked by it, but at the same time, if Charlotte doesn't make a move, it's not like I was going to the trade line saying, okay, they're going to. It was always kind of a long shot that they would, just because of the money attached to these guys. And the fact that while, yes, Cody Zeller is intriguing, for a right team, while, yes, Marvin Williams, with 3-point shooting ability and his rebounding is intriguing to a team, that money that has to be moved around to match up with that can be a little more trouble than it might be worth for some teams. So, it's one of those things where it's like, I wish something had happened. It'd be cool if something did, but if not, okay. We've probably given Charlotte more love now than they've gotten in general.
Isaiah Thomas is a Clipper.
Oh,
what?
A 3-team deal, it sounds like.
Yeah. Marcus Morris and IT to the Clips, Jerome Robinson to the Wizards, Harkless, and a 2020 first-round pick to the Knicks. By the way, that'll be great because that means the Clippers hold on to both Mann and Cavangeli, so that would be legit. But, yeah, yikes. The Clippers have a lot of scoring, by the way. Good luck trying to stop them defensively because with Kawhi, PG, Lou, Trez, Marcus Morris, and IT, they're going to score.
Wow.
Shabazz Napier, I think he could go off in Washington.
Yeah. I mean, right? I mean, are they really committed to Ish Smith? Can I pause the show to pick up Shabazz Napier in a few spots?
That's not a bad idea, Dan, for any of us. Let's just play elevator music until we look and see if he's available.
Hey, Corbin, talk about reality NBA while we all pick up Shabazz Napier.
Drew and Dan fighting for idea right now in all their leagues.
He's actually only available in 2 of my leagues, and he's on waivers in both of them. So I got all day to put in a claim.
Yeah, no dice here. But yeah, I mean, like...
Oh, well. Goodbye, everybody.
Napier, by the way, is better. Brew, do you agree that Napier's a bigger pickup than Bowman? I think Napier's probably better.
Yeah, I do, because we don't know with Bowman. He's disappeared at times when he's had opportunities to step up. I do think they think pretty highly of him as far as a player of his ilk could go in Golden State. So I do think he'll be the guy there, but he might look more like 12 points, 3 boards, 5 assists, 4 assists, with not much else cooking. Good percentages. Percentages may or may not matter to you. When you look at Napier, though, he could get in this Washington system, even if they play Ish Smith 25 minutes per game, and really let Ish Smith go, because that's what Scott Brooks sometimes will do, is he'll just let Ish Smith go, and then you'll see Ish with the big numbers. But even if that happens, I think Napier could soak it up. They've been playing players like Gary Payton minutes. He hasn't been good. Isaiah Thomas hasn't been good. So Napier getting in there 30 minutes a game, possibly putting up numbers like, 14 and 8, 15 and 8. That plays. He could be a top 100 guy the rest of the way.
What about Ish? Why don't we stick on that one for a second? Is he a pickup?
I mean, yeah.
I
mean, yeah, like he made my voice go out.
Yeah, like, he feels like his role stays about the same, right?
He's just so hard in standard leagues because he doesn't give you the money counting stats that you need to really capitalize on the opportunity. But he'll give you a lot of assists. He'll score. Decent percentages. So, yeah, I would put him behind Napier though.
Napier ahead of it. Is that? Some of that is just the way that they develop their fantasy game.
There's that aspect to it, but I think going out and getting him and giving up McRae, McRae has a pretty good future. When McRae was on the floor for the Wizards, they were turning to him a lot to get things going offensively, and the percentages reflected that. He was getting a lot of usage on a bad team. He was playing hurt. He probably the last 2 weeks has been at about 70%. I have him on a lot of teams right now because the Wizards their games are 135 to 133, a lot of nights. And McRae was going to be one of those guys to soak up that usage, and not anymore now, obviously, in Denver. So for them to give up McRae, I think they probably have a pretty good role carved out for Napier. I think he's going to play 30 minutes per game there, and he's pretty good. Let's give him a little bit of props. He has actually continued to develop his game, and he's done it at every juncture. So it's not going to be surprising if he goes to Washington and he does it there.
We are 2 minutes from the deadline. While we bid farewell to a couple of our pros on this thing, Alan, you've been kind enough. You got lumped in here with a lot of bodies and a lot of things happening. Final thoughts before we say farewell to you.
Just echoing all the points made on Napier so far. I think that he definitely jumps up the ads list from today's action. The stuff that he was doing in Minnesota seems like a good thing to take a look at if you want to know what he could do in Washington. It's a really good offense for him to be operating in. I do think that he will jump Ish Smith for the more opportunities in that system, and I'm pretty excited about his prospects. I've got him in a couple of leagues. One that I just happened to have him by chance. The other, I picked him up as this trade was going down.
Yeah, that's why we had elevator music. At Alan Soroki on Twitter. Thank you, my good man. I'll talk to you for the accidental mailbag pretty soon.
I'm looking forward to it, Dan. Thanks for having me on.
Corbin, I think you got a minute or so here as well, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. He is at Corbin NBA. Final thoughts here before you got to take off and go just watch the feed buzz by.
NBA trade deadline's undefeated. That's really all I can say. excited to look back on all these moves and the plethora that will come out just after the buzzer. And as a Lakers fan, I can't wait for the buyout market live show.
Yeah, that's right. We'll do a 4-hour Lakers buyout market live show. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We also have an opportunity here to bring in the great Pedro Doreste of Keep the Change fame on Fantasy NBA Today. Good morning, Well, actually, I guess it's afternoon now. Good afternoon. Trade deadline is here.
Good afternoon, Dan. I don't know if you guys can see me, but here
we
I
can.
am.
Yeah, we see you.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
You're up there, man. We got you in high def. We're going to get some stuff trickling in here after the fact. But before we do that, one of the names we haven't mentioned is what becomes of Mo Harkless. You guys know, those of you that have listened to me, and you guys are all stuck listening to me because you're all hoop ballers. I've been on Mo Harkless watch for about as far back as it possibly goes. And he had stretches in Portland where he was really good, intermittent games with the Clippers when other guys were hurt where he was really good. By the way, Chris Haynes just tweeting that DeMar DeRozan will not be traded. This is like exactly, the anti-news. Oh, well, how about that? Thanks, Chris. Do the Knicks keep him? And if they don't, could he end up in a place where he has fantasy value? Actually has a really nice 9-category game. Pedro, you just brought you on, so I'll throw you into the fire. Is there any way Mo Harkless ends up in a decent spot at the end of all this?
Yeah, Harkless is one of those perennial 111 candidates, right? But he always ends up disappointing just a little bit. He'll put up months-long stretches of value, and then he'll have like some sort of knee flare-up or something. So I do think he's a candidate for the buyout market, but I don't think if he does stay in the Knicks, I don't really see like a path to playing time the way Marcus Morris used to have.
Right.
I don't know if you guys would agree with me.
Yeah, I certainly do. Brandon?
Yeah, I'm not buying it. I mean, he was someone that didn't do a whole lot with the Clippers when he was given minutes to start. He'll get some steals, sure. His scoring has not been great this year. He's someone that I think will take a back seat to someone like Kevin Knox, RJ Barrett. They'd rather have them get the touches than Harkless. It seems like they're going to keep him, but still, it's not someone that I'm rushing out to grab unless you're in truly a deep league.
Pedro, I forgot to ask where people can find you and what you do for us here at Hoop Ball. Want to give you the introduction on the live show.
Right, belatedly so. I am the assistant editor here at Hoop Ball, and also like a guest contributor to the pod. And you can find me at Pedro and Doreste on Twitter.
Easy enough.
Yeah.
We're watching the feed. Something's going to come in. Everybody keeps sending the tweets out that say, hey, as long as people are on the phone call, things can still happen. I mean, I think we all get it at this point, right? Like this, is anybody, it's 2020 now. We've been doing this silliness for a while. We don't need those reminders. I sent out a tweet last night that just said the funniest thing for me at the trade deadline is when other people confirm the Woj and Shams tweets. Like, what are you doing, man? Yeah, we gotcha. You got to beat him if you want to do that, like Tough Juice did on the Marcus
Damn right, Crum Butler. Damn right.
This is the hour of the show where my voice starts to fade a tiny bit. Okay, I'm just staring at the wire, and I keep expecting something to interrupt us, and to this point, it hasn't happened, which either means we're actually done or someone's on a really long phone call that went past the 12 o'clock hour. We've talked about almost everything. I would love to do a reset, but at some point during this madness, I stopped writing things down because they were coming in so fast. So, Brandon, I'm going to give you kind of a tough question, I think, while we wait for this weird, end of the deadline, weird things to trickle in. What are your favorites? What are your biggest winners and losers as things stand right now?
Christian Wood, biggest winner. Biggest loser probably is Larry Nance. I think I would probably add a guy like Marcus Chris into that in biggest winners. And here's a good one for you, Danny. One that you love. Darren Collison is probably one of the biggest winners because with IT going to the Clippers,
hey,
that means that spot is open with the Lakers. And with the Lakers not making a move, it seems like Darren Collison now, I would say a 95% chance he joins the Lakers.
I'm going to do my happy dance over here. Pedro, same question. Biggest winners and losers while I celebrate possibly having Darren Collison in 2 weeks.
Yeah. I think we're all in agreement that Christian Wood stands to benefit the most. from the moves today. I'm cautiously optimistic about DeAnthony Melton. He really does not need too much time to be fantasy relevant in 12-team leagues. I'm also looking at, and this is from a couple of days ago, but Malik Beasley with this newest configuration, they actually have a point guard now. I think Malik Beasley can get a lot of easy spot up opportunities playing next to D'Angelo Russell. So those are the three I'm targeting. In deeper leagues, I'm also monitoring Caboclo. Whenever he's healthy, they'll need a big body in Houston.
Still nothing, by the way. No additional notes on Danilo Gallinari. Ira Winderman tweeting that there is no Gallo move, which is interesting. I mean, this is sort of the Thunder saying we want to just ride this, because that Gallo was a great trade chip. I mean, he's a good basketball player on an expiring contract, and they were not willing to part with him for anything less than full market value. Thunder are happy with how things are going, and if that is indeed the case, then we don't have to worry about anything on that front. Mark Berman tweeting that the Knicks will get an additional second-round pick in the Marcus Morris latest edition, the one that involved the Washington Wizards and Isaiah Thomas, so that would be one little tiny bonus for the Knicks getting involved in that one. Adam Himmelsbach tweeting per league sources, he's a Celtics beat writer for the Boston Globe, the Celtics will not be making any moves at the deadline, which actually probably puts Daniel Tice in my list of big winners at the trade deadline, that Boston didn't bring in a starting center, because when he was healthy just a moment ago, he was clobbering as their starting center. Brandon, do you agree?
I had to put my volume up there. Yeah, I think you're right. The only thing is that he's hurt now. I found it difficult to find time to put in Tice when he actually does well. I mean, is it Tice, Cantor? They really do tend to switch off. And that's one thing that's brutal. I think in head-to-head formats, I think it's tough to ride with a guy like Tice because he'll have some really bad games that'll hurt you for the week, and you might be better off streaming that spot. Roto, with a games cap, I think you're better off with a guy like Tice.
Woj, by the way, now confirming that there will be no deals for the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are not making moves at the trade deadline. Andy Larson, who covers the Jazz for the Salt Lake Tribune, also confirming that the team that he covers, the Utah Jazz, also no trades at the deadline. So we're getting a lot of these are teams that are not on phone calls right now as we tick past the 12 o'clock official ending time. Could it be that Isaiah Thomas getting moved is the last move we talk about on this trade deadline show that feels strangely odd for the man who was drafted last in his draft class? Brew, I'm gonna come back over to you, big dog here. Is there anything you're looking for as we're sort of sitting beyond the trade deadline? Are there any teams that you're monitoring in particular? We're getting a lot of this is actually kind of new. We're getting a lot of tweets about teams that are done, right? That San Antonio, by the way, also Chris Haynes saying they did not make any deals as well. This is relatively new.
Yeah, that's the beat writer consolation prize. You didn't get any scoops, so I'll just tell you we're done. I don't know if anybody's ruled out Gallinari. He seems to me to be a bigger piece that could not really change the equation much for anybody in Oklahoma City. They got a lot of guys that even when they get the minutes, they don't really cash in on them. But he could mess up somebody else's roster. So I do think the Heat getting set the way that they have, that he's probably off the block. And let's face it, the Thunder are having a great season, and they should play this thing out. With having Chris Paul get an all-star berth, and if they can make the playoffs and just make a little bit of noise, I don't know that his contract is tradable, but next year it becomes a lot more tradable if he's perceived to be a high-end player. But also on the Thunder note, just glad that Dennis Schroeder is staying where he's at, because he's a big hoop ball 6 guy carrying a lot of 8-cat teams really far right now, and he's just in a great spot. You don't want to mess that up. But other than that, it kind of feels like it's done. I know that's famous last words, but
yeah, nothing. We're 9 minutes past the deadline, and we have nothing. In this, Brian Windhorst on The Jump just said that the Tristan Thompson buyout market just jumped up quite a bit. Seems like he is not on the move today. And this, again, is potentially another reason to hold on to Larry Nance as the one guy who's going to soak up all the backup center and power forward minutes out there, especially if Thompson ends up gone. I know he's been hurt lately. The rebounding in Cleveland is about to get real murky. If you were counting on anybody to get boards as part of their value, that's not going to be happening with Andre Drummond around. Woj, by the way, tweeting out that the Pacers are also done. It seems like he's putting the finishing. He's closing the book on every team in the NBA right now. He's like 28 tweets away from finishing them all off. Vincent Goodwill just tweeted that a buyout for Reggie Jackson is an option, but that is also premature. I mean, we might actually have nothing at the 12 o'clock deadline. There might not be a buzzer beater. Pedro, what the hell am I going to do with myself the next 40 minutes?
I have no idea. Maybe we'll have to talk about the buyout market.
What do you got for you?
Hey, I don't have any roster space in 30 deep, but James Ennis in Orlando in a 30-team league.
Oh yeah, he did move.
Oh man,
Woj
we're scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah,
but you're really going low there, bro.
Hey, you know what? I'm trying to improve my team. Dan keeps whooping my ass. It really sucks.
Well, I'm getting clobbered these days because I don't have Rashawn Holmes. I need him to get back. Although it sounds like
you're beating me 7-2 without him
this week.
I think you are.
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm getting lucky.
Your team's so good. I'm beating somebody else 7-2 with the same lineup.
Well, don't worry, because Pat Beverly got hurt for my team and Reggie Bullock is out. It's a weird 30 deep team. I've constructed a weird Franken monster of a team that desperately needs all of the injured guys back. I forget how many dudes I had to sub out. T.J. Warren, Rashawn Holmes, Pat Beverly, LaMarcus Aldridge was out until like 2 games back. It was a little bit of a tough run for my team, but I'm hanging in there, so I'm good with that. Nothing else. I think we might actually we're 12 minutes past now. I think we might be able to call the trade deadline Dunzo.
That's crazy. That's very unexpected. This never happens. There's usually something.
The year that it went huge after we did exactly what we're doing right now, I want to say it was about 10 minutes after the deadline.
Yeah.
Not that that's going to happen here.
Man, dozen minutes in. All right, well, listen, before everybody starts signing off of the podcast, we're not going anywhere. The show will be at least another 30 minutes long. We have a whole wrap-up segment here coming, and maybe something else will trickle in. We're not closing Twitter on this end. I will remind everybody one more time here. This will probably be the last one of these for the show. That is what you're watching, the 2020 NBA Trade Deadline live show. Please do, if you're checking in now for the first time today, or you've been hanging out and you don't have the window in front of you a couple times, navigate over to the YouTube page on your phone, whatever it is you're using, and click that thumbs up button. It is a big, big deal to us. Many of you have clicked it. Some of you have not. Before you go, just hit it on the way out if that's what's happening here. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got a lot of new ones today, which is super cool. That means a lot of you that are finding this page, maybe you didn't know it existed before, or you did, but you didn't know we actually did stuff on it. That's a big win for us and for you guys, because we want to welcome you all into the Hoopball fray, certainly here at YouTube as well. Hoopball Fantasy, right above me. That's where all of this stuff gets tweeted out all day, every day. It is a blurb feed. It's got all the news and notes that happens every day of the season. All the trades that are going out today are happening over there. I am at Dan Besbris. That guy up there right now that you can see is at Aaron Brewski, and my other two guests at Pedro N. Doreste and at BD Marcus. Brew, did something just happen? I see you looking intently.
No, I'm sitting here thinking usually the Kings will leak to their kind of their go-to team reporters that they're done at a time like this. So Nemanja Bjelica is the guy that I'm wondering about. Top 50 fantasy player, man.
Voodoo doll in hand.
Semi-charmed kind of life.
Yeah,
and has hung in there despite all the different things going on. He's going to have a hard. I mean, they've really liked Jabari Parker for a while there. So do they come in and try to play Jabari Parker when he gets healthy, 20-25 minutes? Split that up with Bjelica. Do they want to keep playing Harry Giles? They can't really keep Harry Giles. So they have no incentive really to play him other than to make themselves look bad. And then if Alex Len is healthy, does he slide in and play big man minutes? They actually do need somebody that's not terrible to play backup center minutes. And of course, Rashawn Holmes, is on all of our teams. So we're watching there. So if you remove Bielitsa from the equation, his value probably goes in the crapper. It probably helps out Holmes, make sure he doesn't get squeezed. But usually they will tell, once the deadline is over, they will tell everybody, hey, this is what we did. That hasn't happened yet.
Brew, who's your biggest winner at the trade deadline in reality?
Ooh, man, it's got to be probably Christian Wood. I mean,
and what about a team? What about a team? Did any team get a lot better?
The Clippers, come on.
In reality ball, yeah, the Clippers, I mean, getting a big man, this is the thing that they had to have happen. And getting probably the best available big man for what they need, that's a really huge win. He fits on a number of different levels for them. He's got that attitude that I think, they can get really nasty defensively as a result of everything they're putting together over there. So that's huge. We'll see what happens with the Lakers. If they land Darren Collison, is that a good thing?
Sorry.
Yeah, it is. It is if it gets Rondo off the floor. It is. So at the top of the league, you're wondering about that. Houston, I don't know what they're doing. They got another move in their pocket?
That sounds like no. I think we got one of their local guys saying it. Jonathan Fagan, I think he said it was done.
That's amazing. This variance theory, and for those of you who haven't been on the show all day, is basically my thought there is that they're not good enough to beat the Clippers or the Lakers. So how do you go about that? If you're not good enough, your window is now, you basically got all these different, Russell Westbrook's knee isn't in good shape. What are they going to do with all the other holes in their roster? So you got to kind of look at it as a win now situation, and they're going to go small to try to counteract, in the Lakers. Oh my God, it's hilarious. You're going to have JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, and Anthony Davis out there posting up or PJ Tucker. But the flip side of that is if you run him up and down the floor and you shoot a ton of threes and you give yourself a chance, do something different that, maybe he's just cockamamie enough to work.
We got a question that's coming up repeatedly in the chat room, and people are losing it. It wasn't for us. It was actually just in the chat room, and I thought, you know what? Screw it. I'll bring this bad boy on the show. Apparently, a number of people watching this show right now are debating whether or not to keep Jeremy Lamb or drop him for Shabazz Napier. So we'll go consensus on this one. Brew, Lamb or Napier?
I'll take Napier. I think that the Pacers box score is going to take about 2 to 3 weeks worth of games, not counting the All-Star break, so 4 to 5 weeks to get healthy. Once Oladipo is sort of in the realm of about 4 boards, 4 assists, 5 assists a game, 20 points, whatever it's going to end up being, and he's hitting at a 40% clip, that's when you'll start to see the Lambs and everybody else who's left over start to get healthy as well. You're going to see the big men suffer. The act of moving all those players into a cohesive rotation, it's just going to be a mess there for a little bit. Now they didn't get rid of Miles Turner, so there's a little less rotation oddity, there. But Lamb, I think, is going to take that step back, and Napier is going to be better.
Brandon?
Yeah, I'll go with that. Here's the question, though, and I'll ask all you guys. How worried are we about Ish Smith getting minutes that steal away from Napier? Because Ish Smith got a lot of minutes earlier this season, was actually pretty productive about a month ago or so when he had those minutes. That's the only thing I'm concerned about is I'm not entirely sure Washington will do the right thing at times. So that's why I'm a little hesitant on Napier, and it's why I prefer a guy like Melton. We're getting a lot of Napier or Melton questions in the chat room. So I'd prefer Melton if that's the case.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Ish Smith's the only thing that concerns me.
Pedro, I'm going to get your thoughts on all of these things, but Brandon brought up that one too. Melton over Napier for you?
Look, I love a player that's playing like 10 minutes a game. He's really playing like 18, 19 and getting you late round value. You can use that. Like he's getting you top 120 value in such a low amount of time. And then he's just one injury away from going way up the ladder. And the fact that he plays defense, and, that's a limiting factor for young players all over the place. So, that box is checked. So, he's got the floor that you want with the upside that you like. With Napier, the way I broke it down, I think he'll actually start. And you might see him get added and dropped. I think he's going to start maybe in that 25-minute range. But the real upside in this equation, and I do think he plays 30 minutes ballpark for the rest of the season. Probably if the average, we got to put a number on it, I think it's 28, 29 minutes, factoring in the fact that he probably comes in, takes a little bit to get acclimated, plays about 25 minutes per game. They lean heavily on Ish Smith early on. You still got Bradley Beal around. But Beal, I don't think they're going to make the same, I'll call it a mistake, that they made last year. They let Bradley Beal play through all sorts of stuff last year, just because he wanted to, and just because Scott Brooks is that kind of a coach. I think they recognize they can't play with fire like that. So in this lost season, I think they're going to probably relent as the year goes on, and it's in that scenario. And whether or not he leaves, I think they will reduce Ish Smith's minutes, and because you don't give up a Jordan McRae unless you plan on playing Shabazz Napier. McRae, he might not be the greatest player in the world, but he has been a young, promising player. And I think what Denver saw in that is they go, hey, look, we've got depth. We don't really need Shabazz Napier. We prefer to have him, but we would like to get some chips in on McRae for the future. So you could see both teams recognizing the value there. So I think at the end of the day, if we're looking in the middle of March, say like March 10th, I think Napier's up at 30 minutes a game.
Pedro, I've kept you on the back burner here. Thoughts on all of these player comparisons we're talking about?
Yeah, no, that's fine. That gave me more time to think about
Shabazz
Napier. I think Shabazz Napier is going to be one of those annoying end of roster guys for the rest of his season, if not the rest of his career.
Hey, that's better than what it was, 2 months ago. He was off the roster.
Yeah, no, I've always kind of liked him for fantasy, but he's too volume dependent. And the thing about that 30-minute mark in Washington is there's no player averaging more than 30 minutes aside from Bradley Beal on the entire team. So the 30-minute mark is actually might be very generous. If he does get there, then yeah, Shabazz Napier is a standard league type of guy, but I think Ish Smith is still going to play his 22, 24 minutes. And Shabazz needs all the minutes he can get to be like a useful asset,
What about Jeremy Lamb? He was one that came up, and DeAnthony Melton, I think, were the other two.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to say. I don't think the only one that I see having rest of season value is DeAnthony Melton of the three. I'm streaming Jeremy Lamb in basically every league I'm in while TJ Warren is out, but I know that that's like it has an expiration date. But with Melton, I just see the team relying on him more for the defense. I think the lineup with him, Dylan Brooks, JJJ, and Jonas Valanciunas is the second best defensive lineup in the league with minimum 100 minutes or something like that. So I think they'd want to see those guys play together. Somebody mentioned in the chat that they want to develop young players. How old is Melton? Melton's like 21 years old, right?
Yeah, he's a kid. I don't know the exact age, but he's still really young.
Yeah, Melton came from USC. He played, I think, 1 year there. He was ineligible for part of the season. But so, yeah, he's young.
Exactly. So I don't understand why wouldn't they want to develop this young player? So I'd feel very comfortable heading into the rest of the season with Melton at the end of my roster.
There was a tweet that came through. It's a non-tweet, but I'll throw it out there anyway. Rod Boone, who covers the Hornets, tweeted that they were officially not doing anything at the trade deadline. I mean, we're 23 minutes out now, and there has not been any news. So I feel somewhat safe. You see how hard I'm hedging on this. I feel pretty safe that the trade deadline has ended. With the biggest name players moving over the last couple of days: Rob Covington, Clint Capella, Andre Drummond, Marcus Morris, and John Henson.
Yeah. There's one more piece of news. The Mark Stein reported that the Lakers are going to work out J.R. Smith.
Yeah, they're going to work him out.
Cool. Oh, that's beautiful. Cool. Oh, that is pure beauty. I'll tell you what I'm excited for. I'm very excited for Tristan Thompson to get bought out if that does happen, and him get reunited with Khloe Kardashian in Los Angeles. That's what I'm excited for.
Oh, Tristan Thompson to LA. Someone was tweeting that the Celtics would be hard in on Tristan Thompson if he got bought out, which does actually make some sense.
Yeah, so does the Clippers. So I mean, they have another big spot that they can use. So
hey, Brandon, I'm going to ask you this every time you and I talk, regardless of the format: trade deadline show, weekly show, buy low, sell high. Is Ivica Zubac ever going to get more minutes?
Great question. It's one that I continue to ask my guests on the Hoop Ball Clippers podcast. And I don't know. It really seems like they're happy with Montrezl Harrell getting a lot of minutes late in games. He'll get his minutes in the first quarter. He'll get his minutes in the third quarter. Outside of that, I don't think Zoo will get much more than 20 minutes.
Yeah, he's been a little bit – he's averaging 18 on the year. He's actually at 21 over the last couple of weeks. That's enough to get him really close to 9 category value, but he's like a minute and a half away if you had to rank it. Can he get another 2 minutes? Can he get up from 21 to 22 and a half, 23?
He can. Will he?
Thank you for that. By the way, Chris Haynes tweeting while we're talking about the Clippers that they intend to go with a versatile starting lineup of Pat Beverly, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris, and Ivica Zubac. That is the non-news of the century.
Yeah, that's obvious. I mean,
yeah.
Their bench is going to be very good. They're going to have to split up Marcus Morris, Lou Williams, Isaiah Thomas, because some of these guys just can't defend. So they're going to have to split them up. It'll be interesting to see what Doc does. This is really Doc's toughest coaching job this season with all these pieces. I'm not sure he's had a roster this deep since when he was with Boston, and he had those guys in Rondo and Paul Pierce and Garnett and Perkins. I mean, he's got a deep lineup here. I'll be curious to see who he goes with.
Trey Burke, by the way, is getting bought out by the Philadelphia 76ers. Keith Pompey and Kyle Neubeck reporting that he's the other guy to open up the roster spot after the trade of James Ennis. We are at 12:26. We're 26 minutes past the hour. Detroit has just waived Tim Frazier, who I can readily admit forgot was on Detroit. So that's the part of the show that we're at right now. It feels weird. Could they? I know that we saw that one tweet flip by about them potentially waiving Reggie Jackson, but that feels like a terrible idea. I mean, at this point, if you're waiving Tim Frazier, does that clear out 12 minutes a game for Brandon Knight? What's happening?
It's a terrible idea, trading away Andre Drummond for a second-round pick and John Henson.
Oh, my God. That one I still can't wrap my head around. Completely insane. Pedro.
No other team could give you a better offer. No other team. I understand he's going to be a free agent, but no other team.
I might have been happier just taking the second-round pick. What are they going to do with John Henson and Brandon Knight? Okay, I get it. It's the monetary side of things. I know you have to contract match, but I don't know. Pedro, do you see any universe where – because Detroit is a real mess right now. They're waiving Tim Frazier. They just picked up Brandon Knight in a trade. So they replaced one deep backup point guard with another. Reggie Jackson is getting all the shots in the world. Derrick Rose didn't get traded. What's actually going to happen in Detroit?
They started their rebuilds by trading away their best player for scraps. So I really don't know where they go from here. Because the biggest albatross is still Blake Griffin there, and there's no end in the horizon for that problem. But they also have bad contracts throughout. They still have Reggie Jackson, even though he's a free agent at the end of the year, and then Tony Snell, who has a player option for next year, $12 million. So I don't know. I mean, for me, you can build around Sekou. You can try to fashion Bruce Brown into a 3-and-D shooting guard. I don't know. They are probably the team that is least set up for the future in the league right now.
I know I'm sort of deep mining here with Detroit, New York, teams that just have all these goofball players on their rosters now, but to me there almost has to be something. The cream has to rise a little bit. So let's go through and Pedro, I know you're at the tail end here, so I want to come to you first, and then we'll let you go back to monitoring the wire and handling things over at Hoopball. If you were watching a Detroit or a New York that's come out of this trade deadline with a bunch of weird interchangeable pieces, who can stay above the cut line for you? Can anyone in any format on these teams outside, of course, of Christian Wood. We know he's a big-time in. But what about the rest of this stuff?
Bruce Brown was one of my favorite stashes heading into the deadline, and I'm still going to hold them for at least another 2 weeks because Derrick Rose is doing like his yearly routine where his lower body's breaking down. So if that happens, we've seen Bruce Brown put up really good numbers as a de facto point guard. Reggie Jackson is still there, but we mentioned him as a candidate to be bought out, so we're not reporting that, but there's something to keep an eye on. On the Knicks, give me no Knicks. I want no part of the Knicks ever. Mitch Robinson is a buy low candidate, but he seems to be perpetually one.
It took me the entire show to realize that I had the corner of the guest's video covering the very corner of my video. I'm surprised nobody told me that I had biffed that. So that's, 3.5 hours in. Pedro, wonderful work on this show. Wonderful work at Hoopball at Pedro N. Doreste. We'll talk to you on Fantasy NBA today here pretty soon.
Yeah, later this week, hopefully. And guys, check out the Hoopball Wire right now. We've got everything covered, all the analysis in written form.
Yeah, that one, as Brew mentioned, you can go to hoop-ball.com, and the trade deadline tracker is available there right on the homepage. Pedro, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Brandon, I believe you are next on the got to get back to doing other stuff docket. Thank you, good sir. I will talk to you multiple times over the next week.
Yeah, by the way, I'm going to promote the Hoopball Clippers podcast.
You should.
We'll break down that Marcus Morris trade with Jovan Buha of The Athletic.
Awesome.
Hoping to grab him on Saturday, and he's actually going to be in Minnesota, so we can talk a little bit about Covington being traded and
D'Lo.
Russell deal. Yeah, I think they play their next 2 games are against Drummond and Deangelo Russell because they play against Cleveland on,
if he's there
on Saturday. Yeah, so that'll be interesting. And then, I think that covers everything. One last question for you, Dan, since everyone's asking in the chat, and figure I'll ask you as well. If you're going to rank Napier, Melton, and Bruce Brown, go ahead. How would you do it?
Napier, Melton, Bruce Brown. I would go Melton, Napier, Bruce Brown.
Okay. Yeah, me too. I just figured help out the people.
Yeah. Thank you for keeping an eye on the chat room as well. I tried every once in a while, but it was too dang hard. Brandon, I'll talk to you on Monday.
Talk to you later.
Brandon and I host the weekly lineup show at Hoopball. You can check out the premium subscription there as well. Haven't pushed that too much on this show because we had all these other things to push to you. And then there were 2. Big Dog, how you doing, man?
Wait. It's just me and you now.
Yep, just me and you.
We don't do this anymore.
I know. That's why I actually scheduled this in for the end of the podcast.
There's actually a rumor that you don't want me on the shows anymore.
The rumor is you have a 3.5, 4-month-old. Is it 4 now?
Yeah, it's 4. And we just took him to the doctor yesterday. He's going to be a basketball player because he's big.
That is not a problem that the Besbris family ever runs into with our children.
We kind of pulled the you get the car seat, and you bring them in, and you pull the thing up so that they can see the baby now, and they're like, "Whoa!"
That's such a startling reaction to get from people at a doctor's office. Whoa.
Yeah, luckily it wasn't like something else, like an arm sticking out of his head or something.
Yeah, that's a Shooter McGavin reference. You know what else would draw a crowd? A golfer with an arm growing out of his... Anyway. All right, Brew, this is wrap-up time. We got about 15 to 20 minutes or so. There were no deals at the 12 o'clock deadline, so I might call this show at 12:50 because technically I am supposed to be at my kid's preschool at 1 o'clock to pick him up, but don't tell anybody about that. I'm a bad dad today. It's been a wild day. The Cavaliers have loaded up on centers. Deangelo Russell is a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves, which sort of had to happen. Once they traded every point guard, you knew they were just going to do everything to get him. Christian Wood has all of the usage in the universe. DeAnthony Melton, if he's at 25 minutes or more, he'll just be dunking on everyone. Shabazz Napier, he's on the cusp. Who am I missing? Though, I mean, Wood and Melton feel like the monster winners here, but then there's lots of little stuff going on. And what's piquing your eye? Because I know you're in a lot of the deeper leagues. Let's give folks a little bit of we'll call it a 15-minute wrap up here.
Yeah,
Oh, wait a minute. David Aldridge just tweeted that the Clippers are going to waive Isaiah Thomas.
That makes a lot of sense. I think they're a little too crowded, and in his injury situation, I don't think he ever recovered. Like his free throw rate just down in the dumps, and really in a spot where you would think that it would be about as good as it could get in Washington, especially when they've played some of the guys that they've been playing. He just hasn't been able to get to the line, and if he's not getting to the line, he's having a real hard time scoring efficiently. So, not too surprising there. But yeah, no, elsewhere, I think there's storylines with every single team. The Hawks, very interesting getting Clint Capella. And, Clint Capella probably sees similar value there, probably a boost in his offense. And if I had to guess, a dip in his rebounding and probably his defensive stats. So that was interesting. And that sort of kicked off the trade deadline. Denver, sending out the assets that were really clogging them up, good players that needed more minutes. So they did some interesting things just from a reality basketball perspective. Pistons obviously shocking everybody by sending, Drummond to Cleveland. Christian Wood is going to go off. That's, I have him everywhere. So it hasn't even hit me yet, but there's teams of mine that are going to get incredible boosts out of that. And they're all in contention for first place prizes. So
what actually just hit me too, and I apologize for jumping in. Luke Kennard didn't get moved. Does he come back for the Pistons? Because if so, there's a whole bunch of usage ready to go.
Yeah, there is. But the interesting thing there is I think he probably would have been moved if his health wasn't so bad. And so, so if he stays, I think you're going to see kind of the old Luke Kennard in that late round value range. And, you do have some players there in Reggie Jackson and Derrick Rose. As long as they're upright, they'll probably eliminate the need to have him take a step forward, which is what folks would wonder, could he take a step forward in a tanking environment? Well, those two guys would be there to sort of stop him. Hassan Whiteside didn't get moved.
Yeah. So and Nurk is apparently not that far from getting on the court. So he's just going to very slowly kind of whittle away at Whiteside's minutes, right? Slowly.
Well, I think maybe this means that Nurk isn't as close to returning. And because here's the thing, like you can't play both those guys in the playoffs, and you can't really play both those guys most nights. There's some teams that pull it off, but it's Jokic and Plumlee, pretty good two-man combo there to try to pull off two bigs in a rotation like that. So if you're not going to play these guys the full 48, and there's a lot of teams that you can argue those guys, the combo of the two of them should really only play like 36 minutes a game. So if you're not maxing these guys out, the thought process there, especially if you're Damian Lillard, especially if you're the Blazers, both of them want this team to be good over the long term, because it doesn't sound like Dame's going anywhere. You would try to cash your asset in, for in the Hassan Whiteside area. But if you don't think Nurkic is healthy, then you basically say, all right, we'll make a little playoff run here. And, we're not going to get anything for the asset, but at least we keep Damian happy. Playoffs make him happy. It also keeps the reputation of the franchise where you want it to be. Like, if you're in the playoffs every single year and Damian Lillard's out there hitting 35-foot three-pointers and going for 50, 10, and 10 or whatever he's been going for the last month, people want to play with that guy. And he's done as good a job as anybody in the league of creating a leadership atmosphere that I think players are attracted to. Like he's not doing that, the woofing that you might see from past generations. He's just quietly leading guys in an atmosphere where you don't see a lot of BS. And so I think guys will want to play with this. If he's in the playoffs, I think that helps him out. And I think that's the thought process there, is they don't think Nurk's healthy, and they're going to keep Hassan Whiteside because, the alternative, you trade him when he's putting up big numbers. He's like doing all the stuff that he does to get contracts, diving on the floor, exerting more energy than he's accustomed to exerting. He's still terrible on defense, but he did enough to get traded. But that didn't happen this year. There could have been a team out there like, say the Clippers, who need a big man to bang with the Lakers. And I don't know about the cap math, and I don't know if they would want to bring him into the culture. But him not being movable, it says something about Portland's desire to want to play in the playoffs, and I think it also says something about Whiteside's typically depressed market. But you would think there would be a team out there that could have used him, and then ultimately he didn't get moved.
A couple of semi-interesting tweets while you were talking, Brew. David Aldridge tweeted that Tristan Thompson will not be bought out by the Cavaliers, which means that they now have T.T. Drummond, Kevin Love, and Larry Nance to man the center position.
Wait.
I'm sure they're all going to be thrilled
He's
playing
not-
12 minutes a night.
That's got to be posturing, right?
Tristan Thompson's about to get real mad if that's what they're doing out there. That would be a bad look for the Cavs as a team. That's the kind of move where free agents will hold that against you when Thompson's like, yeah, I wanted to go play for somebody interesting, and they wouldn't buy me out even after the trade deadline.
Are they even interested in keeping Drummond?
Though they got his bird rights, I think I saw that. But with this trade, I got it. It almost doesn't matter because they got him for nothing.
Yeah.
But
I don't understand the math there, but I mean,
yeah, none of that makes sense. Another note that came through.
Are you really going to piss Drummond off by playing him 24 minutes a game?
No, he's going big.
So you're going to play him 30 minutes a game, and you're going to give Thompson, 18?
He might not play. I don't
Kevin
know.
Love has to get some minutes at center, otherwise he just gets roasted.
Yep. So anyway, I'm still not dropping anybody. This situation feels too in flow. I mean, I've dropped Tristan Thompson a long time ago, but like Larry Nance, who's been amazing lately, I'm not dropping him yet. Are you? I mean, you got to wait on this.
If I had him, I don't, but I would keep him because he has for his entire career been a top 100 guy in 20 minutes per game.
Yep. And I've got to think they're going to find a way to get him out on the floor.
The Warriors and the Wolves, though, are probably the story of this deadline.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly thought the Warriors would get more for Deangelo Russell, but then after now seeing the Drummond haul.
Well, they did get a first-round pick.
Right. The Warriors, theirs seems a whole lot better.
Yeah, I mean, they get a first-round pick. I believe it's top 3 protected, and it's Minnesota,
Correct.
So anything goes. I mean, that could be a very good pick. They get that pick because they take on just a crazy salary for Andrew Wiggins. And the bet there is that they can make him into the player that everybody thought he would be, which is a far cry from the player he is. So, but I mean, you look at like Deangelo Russell, he probably has improved being in that culture.
We're getting the traditional, this is the annual memorial Boston got really close on 4 guys portion of the trade deadline proceedings.
Wait, did they offer 4 first-round picks for Frank Kaminsky?
Boston made, quote, several strong offers for Davis Bertans, but the Wizards wouldn't budge. This is coming from Chris Mannix, who we know has a slight Boston bent to slight bent to the Boston. Yeah, here comes the save face. We didn't do anything. I mean, they're a good team already, but like it almost feels like at this point Boston should just say nothing.
Look, what is it with them in this first-round picks thing? You mean to tell me the Wizards didn't part with Davis Bertans for 2 first-round picks?
Who knows, man? Who knows? It's all a bunch of fluff. Here's an interesting thing that came. I thought that one was funny. This is actually interesting. Peter Edmiston, who covers the Grizzlies for The Athletic, tweeted that they don't expect Justice Winslow to play that soon, which I thought was kind of an interesting footnote. We didn't have confirmation on that. And he's
That's
more
really
of
interesting.
Right? Yeah. You can
when
check.
did that hit? Just a few minutes ago?
I believe so. Yeah, I'll check his timeline. Someone retweeted it, and then now I'm following him because I actually wasn't before 7 minutes ago. From what I understand, I wouldn't expect Justice Winslow to be suiting up for the Grizz anytime particularly soon. There doesn't seem to be any concern about his back situation as a long-term issue, but the team will presumably be very patient with recovery. So that opens up a ton of time for DeAnthony Melton and actually a reasonable amount of time for Kyle Anderson.
Yeah, I was wondering about Kyle Anderson. That's what I wrote in the blog. Is if Winslow wasn't healthy, now Kyle Anderson becomes interesting. Now I think that interesting equates to late round value at best.
Yeah, I think he could inch up on the 100 mark.
Maybe.
Because the rebounds, the assists, the steals, the blocks, it's going to be a lot like what you saw.
The one thing that kills me with that team is Dylan Brooks. Now you got
Well,
rid
like
of
him.
Jay Crowder. They like Dillon Brooks, and Dillon Brooks has taken the proverbial step forward, but he takes a ton of shots, and really he bends the offense towards him in a way that the stats don't even fully reflect. It's about holding the ball, dribbling it 5 times, seeing that you got nothing, and then sort of, I'll give you the ball now, and it's like 10 seconds left on the shot clock. That kind of stuff that doesn't show up in the box score. He's doing a ton of that, and it just it depresses everybody else's numbers. So that's,
I'm looking. Here's what I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at games that Crowder missed to see how Kyle Anderson performed, and in general, it was okay. I mean, he's never going to score. If you're picking him up, you're probably not getting more than 6 points a game, I would think.
No.
But in 25 minutes a game over that stretch, he's around 5 or 6 rebounds, about 4 assists, and over a steal and a block.
I mean, he needs the steals. That's the big thing. And I guess where you go, okay, maybe he can, is you look at the other defenders around him. And if there is a DeAnthony Melton out there hawking the ball, at the rate of almost 2 steals per game, that just helps the other defenders. And, the other length that you can put on the floor also helps. What also helps is that James Johnson was forwarded on to Minnesota.
That's good for Brandon Clark, too.
Yeah, I mean, so
I love the Grizz.
I'll add a little love for Kyle Anderson. I think he's a flyer pickup.
I love the Grizzlies so much, man.
Man, I need to quit covering the Kings, and I need to cover the Grizzlies.
Yeah, sorry, David's already handling that.
No, but on the writing side,
yeah, I know. I'm messing with you. Don't
mess with my dream, Dan Besbris.
Yeah, I think you control your destiny on that one. Don't you run hoop ball?
I can call the shots. I mean, the Kings need to do something interesting here, pretty soon. There's only so much, if you don't like that, you don't like Kings basketball that one human being can take.
Oh yeah, I can't. I don't much appreciate that line. It's a little much.
The line, or
I don't watch the actual basketball, so it's just the line for me. Andre Drummond, by the way, put a tweet out. Nothing hugely relevant, just saying he was totally blindsided by getting sent to Cleveland. So I don't know how hard he's going to play.
Yeah,
I guess it'll be harder.
Sucks, man.
He's playing for a contract, so he has to now.
Yeah, well, I mean, does he opt in? I would guess he doesn't, but no, I really am interested to see in Golden State how this plays out, because I do think you spend the last part of this year trying to get Andrew Wiggins up to speed. Marquise Chris is going to go huge. Kai Bowman, I had him stashed for so long, and it I should never do this, but I do it all the time. I knew it was going to pan out in March. I was just hoping he could bridge the gap with something, but he didn't. Omari Spellman, I'm just curious, can he make something work in Minnesota? But then you got half the roster turned over there. You bring in Deangelo Russell. You remove Wiggins. I mean, it's a lot of big pieces that are moving. But I think we know how that ends. I mean, Russell, whenever he's good, everybody else is not good, And you got Cat, and he's going to do what Cat does. So
and he'll be happier at least.
Temporarily.
Yeah, I mean, they're still going to – that's a good point. They're still going to lose.
Terrible.
Yeah, they're still going to lose a lot of basketball
games. They can't defend a lick. So I don't know. Let me get you a final thought here so you can go pick up.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll do a little wrap up too.
As I look, I mean, the Rockets are interesting. We've spent a lot of time talking about them. I think the Clippers did better than the Lakers, as far as the big picture stuff goes. The Grizzlies are, our favorite team. Miami, they geared up. They loaded up. I mean, you add Andre Iguodala and Jay Crowder to the mix. You got Jimmy Butler, and you got the Miami sort of culture and franchise. Like, man, they're I think actually and when you have Bam Adebayo to cover Giannis, I think they're everybody's been like, oh, the Bucks are just so far ahead of everybody. They're going to win 70 games. Like, I think there are teams in the East with solutions against those guys, and Miami just got really, really intriguing with the moves that they made.
You think the Clippers can beat the Bucks?
Yeah, I do.
Because to me, I'm as a Laker fan, I'm a little bit devastated Marcus Morris is a big deal for them dealing with big, tough guys.
Well, I mean, Marcus Morris is going to test Anthony Davis's toughness right out the chute. And Anthony Davis, for as tough as he has kind of morphed, and especially this year, I think he's learned how to play with his size. He's also gotten a lot bigger over the years.
True.
So he's morphed more to where he needs to be, though. He's got a lot of talk at the beginning of the year about I want to shoot threes and all that. He's used his size well, but Marcus Morris, man, he's going to probably try to fight him, right off. And that's great math for the Clippers. If Marcus Morris is in Anthony Davis's head, you already won.
Yeah, I think the Lakers will, I presume, go even bigger in those instances, right? See if they'd.
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
Until they pay the price for it. And LeBron is the sort of the key to that, because if he's playing the three and he can keep up with the other threes and they're not losing so much in the scramble situations, that big lineup, the first couple months of the season when I saw that big lineup out there and the way it was moving, I thought, yeah, the Clippers are, they're in some pretty good trouble. We're starting to see cracks in that. And it again comes down to JaVale and Dwight, and can they actually be serviceable in playoff minutes? Because you could just as easily throw Anthony Davis at center, go with LeBron at the 4, which is his better, more natural position. And you do have a little bit of depth there to throw in, but their depth has been bad. Rondo, bad.
Ugh. This is why I need Darren Collison. Put him straight into my veins. Please, no more Rondo. A couple other names I thought I'd throw out there as potential trade deadline winners. Derrick Rose, who didn't get moved. He was going to take a massive hit if he got shifted to some other team, and now, presumably, once this, he has his nicks and bruises and so forth. But when this groin thing heals up, he and Reggie Jackson are going to have a ton of shots in Detroit. The rest of those guys don't really want to shoot on that team outside of Christian Wood. Looking at Marcus Morris is obviously a loser on that front. Larry Nance right now is a loser in the trade deadline stuff. I'm just looking at some of the guys maybe that stayed put that didn't get knocked off the map. But you know what? This is what the post-deadline fun is for. That's the afternoon brew. Again, remind everybody where they can find you and all of Hoop Ball's trade deadline goodies.
Well, you guys can find me at Aaron Bruski, AARONBRUSKI. You can find the blog right there up on the homepage. I think it'll be the most recent article posted. Just so look for the top of the page and click. The blurbs, are a great source of info. You just go to the homepage and click on fantasy or fantasy news, and you'll get all the blurbs. But other than that, just check out all the great stuff. All the hosts that we had on this show. It's just a reminder to me of all the talent we have under one roof. All these guys are deadly. Fantasy basketball has gotten very competitive, and we're probably about 15 deep at least of guys I wouldn't want to play against, or I would, but I would, not be as happy as playing a bunch of fish or whatever. But we got a lot going on with the gaming division. Ira is winning 75% of his bets. I'm almost sure of it. He's been amazing. The guys have all been amazing over there at that channel. Our partnership with MyBookie, if you want to support this site, they've done great things for us, helped us open up channels. And you go to mybookie.ag, put in the code today so they know who sent you, get a bonus. Throw a little money, tail Ira and all the guys. That stuff's all big for the site. But I get excited watching all the the good analysis that folks are bringing to the table. And you do a pretty good job yourself, Dan.
Yeah.
Keeping it all moving.
All right. Brew, I'll let you go.
When to interrupt me.
Nah, yeah. I picked my spots. Big Dog, I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Arf, arf.
That was the Big Dog, the great Aaron Bruski. And then there was one. We are officially down to solo time. And I think I got to figure out a way to get that graphic out of the corner. There we go. So you don't have to see my non-existent hangout window. Want to take a moment here to thank everybody. Brew was talking about it already. All the folks we had on this show were incredible. Lyle, who is fast asleep now, stayed up until 1:30 to do that first shift. Ira Silver, Ira Guberman, Chris Chow, Steven Vidovich, Santino Cacone, Alan Soroki, the great Lord Bogman, Corbin Ford, Brandon Marcus, Pedro Doreste, Aaron Brewski, and myself. I want to, again, I know everybody, you guys are starting to turn the volume down and shut her down. There's still actually quite a lot of you watching right until the very end of this, and for that, I'll give you a little prayer hands, right? This is thank you on emoji. It's doing a real live emoji. Massive, massive, massive thank you to everybody that tuned in for our 4-hour live show. We did it, guys. We made it 5 minutes to the 1 o'clock hour. By the time I'm done with this wrap-up, it'll be pretty close to that. If any of you have not yet clicked the thumbs up button on this YouTube page, please do so before you go, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. There have been a big influx of new folks on that front. That's a big deal for us. Again, people finding this video even after the fact is big for Hoopball because it has all of our information in it as people are scanning through and listening to the amazing pros and Aaron and myself and all the names I read off. They then find Hoopball, and we can grow this thing for future years and just keep offering you more and more stuff, which is, you've seen it. We've been able to do it this year, adding the big DFS show, adding the big gaming show. It's just been this unbelievable snowball. So massive thank you from everybody. Charleston, yeah, I know. We got 3 thumbs down, but that's okay. Still 197 out of 200 votes right now are in the upward direction. So big thank you to all of you guys for tuning in, the thumbs up, the subscriptions, all that good stuff. Follow everybody on Twitter as well. We've got a lot of really cool thoughts for you, and more things are going to be shaking out over the next 2 to 5 days as teams settle in with their new players. We find out who's actually playing, who's not, and there will be some guys that emerge that we didn't even think about here on this live show. These things, they still happen. I want to read off everybody's Twitter handles just in case you missed them earlier in the show. Lyle is at Lyle Swithenbank, Ira Silver Magic, Ira Goobs, C Manu BC, Steven Vidovich, at Santino Cacone, at Alan Soroki, at Bogman Sports, at Corbin NBA, at BD Marcus, at Pedro N. Doreste, at Aaron Brewski, and of course, I am at Dan Besbris. One more time, I want to do the clarion call for recruiting here at the end of the show. Those that are still checking in, I'm assuming we'll probably get a couple emails today. If you guys want to be a part of what's going on at Hoopball, you can tweet at me. I might not see it today, so the better way to do it is to send an email to teamhoopball@hoop-ball.com. Again, we are looking for folks that are passionate and energized and want to be a part of crazy stuff like this thing we did today, just pulling it together with know-how and sinew and some string. It's amazing. Can you podcast? Can you write? Do you want to do sales and have daytime availability? All that stuff is on the table. Hit me up again, teamhoopball@hoop-ball.com. You guys can tell we're getting towards the ending because I'm seeing people closing their windows down. So I'll do one more time, a giant 4-hour thank you from all of us here at Hoopball. The trade deadline is done. Go check out all the names we've been talking about, and let's win some damn money in our fantasy leagues. For all the guests, pros, you name it, I am Dan Besbris. So long, everybody.